It's a beautiful day. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Would the clerk read the roll, please?
Commissioner Kramer. Present. Commissioner O'Rourke.
Present.
Commissioner Rexroth.
Present.
Chairman Wessel.
Here.
Commissioner Ross. Here. Commissioner Elguyer. Here. Commissioner Lautner. Present. All present.
Thank you. We have a proposed agenda in front of us and a proposed late edition item. And we have one item to take off. So first, I propose that we take off item number 2. And it has been proposed for a late edition on the Energy Task Force. And anything else? Any discussion?
Where would you like to put the discussion for the Energy Task Force?
Shall we put that right after number 7, before the administrator? 7A. 7A.
Move to approve the agenda as amended.
Support. All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved. We have an agenda. And we have our administrator update.
Okay, just got a couple of updates for you. One is that last Thursday night, I and Matt attended a planning commission meeting up in Leelanau Township regarding the tower. There were a number of neighbors that were there that expressed their concerns. Planning commission asked some good questions, but the bottom line is that they did set a public hearing regarding the tower, which is the next major step that has to take place, and that is set for June the 13th. Their planning administrator still has until the end of I think about the middle of next week before he finalizes his review, and he'll probably at that time have some other concerns that he needs us to address. So I think we'll have plenty of time. Thanks to Lauren. You want to see, I did bring it in here, but you want to see the application that was submitted. She did an excellent job pulling all that information together. I think it was probably, when we handed it to Steve, he thought, I haven't seen one this comprehensive in a while. So she did a great job, and along with Matt getting all the information. A couple of things we left out, but that's not a surprise when you put that much information together. So we'll see where it goes. Again, after the public hearing on the 13th, the planning commission has several options. They can approve it, not approve it, take it, ask more questions for more information, set another date for when they'll consider it. So, but the biggest thing is we wanted to get to the public hearing portion. So it's progressing. The other item deals with.
Mr. Richard?
Well, Linda's got a question on that, I think.
Or Mr. Lewis, I'm sorry. This meeting you had, was anyone from Cherryland Electric at it?
Excuse me?
Was there anyone from Cherryland Electric at your meeting up there?
There was not.
Okay, and so for the public hearing, should someone from every party involved be at the public hearing, even though public hearing generally is for?
Well, we have made it known that Cherryland Electric is involved. They will be running a line to the tower, and that we did make clear that they are a partner with the county in this tower, that they plan to use it for their service too. We did express with them that Verizon is also a potential partner. While there's been a lot of discussion, it looks like they will join. We've kind of put all of that process on a little bit of a hold until we get the special land use permit. There's not much else that could happen. So they're more than welcome to be there if they want, and probably.
Well, this is where I was going. That's not going to be a good night for Cherryland Electric on the 13th of June.
Okay.
I don't think we can have anybody there.
Okay, well, but if there's questions we can answer, we may have to hold it off, until we
Well, that's good.
but the public hearing is meant to let the public share.
Understood, but it might be important enough to have somebody listening too, so, okay.
I would just add before you continue that Matt and Richard did a really nice job of reminding the planning commission and the township officials that this whole project started with a petition and resolution from them asking us to meet that need. So you did a nice job with that.
Thank you. The other one is that last week, or a couple weeks ago, bids were open for the demolition of the former Leelanau Memorial Hospital up in Northport. Through the bidding process and the discussion at the meeting last week of the, I think it was the Brownfield Authority, or was it? It was the Land Bank Authority. The bid was awarded to Bay Area Demolition in the amount of $386,250. By the time they sign the contract, they'll try to have everything completed and done within 63 days. That's what's on there. So, get to work on it. So hopefully that will be said that there's no action needed by here. It could be all be handled from what I understand from the treasurer through his office, because it is all being handled through a state grant. So just want you to be aware. Okay. And that's all I have for now.
Want to introduce our next presentation?
Oh, I didn't know I did the introductions. Okay. And I'm afraid I've not had the privilege of meeting Steve Styler, but he's with he's representing the Leelanau County Historic Preservation Society, and he has some comments. So take it from there.
I'm showing you at the table.
Also, so you guys will know, last Thursday, when all of a sudden packet was done for all practical purposes, I took a drive down to the park and took a look around. So.
Good morning. Thanks for giving us a spot on your agenda this morning. I'm Steve Steyer, I live in Empire Township. I'm representing the Leelanau County Historic Preservation Society and also the Barn Use Committee that's been mandated by our lease arrangement. Leelanau, and what I've done is you have in your packets a 5-page report from me, but I've reduced that down to just bullet points, which I'll talk about this morning to save you some time. Leelanau County established the Leelanau County Poor Farm in 1901, and farming there at the Poor Farm continued through until about 1950. Over the 50 intervening years, the county commission gave little attention or funding to maintain the barn. It was clear that the commissioners considered it a liability. As early as 2002, a county citizens committee was meeting to save the barn and determine its use. The group came up with several suggested adaptive uses, but all required having people inside the barn. These meetings made it clear that the county residents wanted the barn saved and used for public assembly. After 15 more years of inaction, the Board of Commissioners put out an RFP to have the barn removed. It was clear again that they thought it was a liability. When this was made public, Laurel Jarris, Barbara Sepper, and myself established the Leelanau County Historic Preservation Society specifically to save the barn. From the beginning, LCHIPS, Leelanau County Historic Preservation Society, held as a goal and vision of using the barn as a venue for recreational, education, and entertainment events, as we believed that this would be the highest and best use of the barn to serve the citizens of the county, and that it can be a highly valued asset to the county. In 2017, the county and LCHIP signed a lease contract for 25 years. And I want to just read part of one of the statements in the lease. The leasee shall rehabilitate and maintain all historic structures found on the premises, which we also lease the surrounding 2 acres around the barn, shall collaborate with the Parks and Recreation Commission to ensure the same are incorporated into the Leelanau County Park System. Incorporated into the Leelanau County Park System. Lease also says a 6-person committee will be created to determine the specific usage of the barn and any related activities. A membership of that committee is half people from our board and half people representing the county. The Barn Use Committee was formed in 2022 to determine the use of the barn as specified in the lease. The Barn Use Committee discussed several specific uses at length and determined again the best desired uses will require change in use to Public Assembly Group A3. During early 2023, LCHIPs planned for a public event at the Poor Farm Barn, and the Leelanau County Building Safety Department let it be known that proper bathrooms must be installed if people are to be inside the barn. Porta-johns would not be allowed for public use. As word of this spread among our supporters and donors, most were incensed by this decision. So to be fair to them, it was decided to appeal the county building safety department's decision. LCHIPs voted to go through with that appeal, and also the joint committee also voted to appeal that decision. The meeting date for the appeal was set April 11th. The appeal was denied by May 2nd. Costs of construction to build required toilets are very high, and both LCHIPs and the Barn Use Committee have been struggling to find appropriate funding. Don Freerichs, member of the County Parks and Recreation Commission, submitted a capital improvements program submittal form requesting $65,000 for adding toilet facilities to the Poor Farm Barn. This amount was offered to be matched by LCHIPs, $65,000 match.
So the whole would be 130?
Yes.
Yeah, and because of things increasing in price, we're up to as much as 150,000 at this point.
And this is not on today as an action item. It's here for a presentation, and if the board decided they wanted to pursue anything, that'd be added to as an action item at a later meeting.
Yeah,
Yes.
we've been informed that the only way to get this kind of money from the county is to go through the CIP program. So we submitted that proposal, and the committee fully expected some notification and feedback regarding the submittal. However, none was forthcoming. Knowing little about the CIP process, this lack of acknowledgement or feedback has been very disappointing and frustrating, leaving us in the dark regarding county funding. Both LCHIPs and supporters and the Barn Use Committee fully believe that the county must take some financial responsibility for improving the facility that they own and will benefit from any permanent improvement. I've been attending Parks and Recreation Committee meetings for over the past several years and observed the representatives of the 3 different county parks struggle to get even minimal funding for the parks. We have come to believe that Parks and Recreation Commission has historically been underfunded and systematically held back from attaining the quality parks deserve. We highly recommend that over the next year, county commissioners give more attention and funding to our county parks so they can achieve their greatest potential.
Again, this is not this is a presentation, but if any commissioners would like to ask any questions about their request or the process. Richard, you checked into this, and the safety department did turn down your request to use a porta potty. It went to the repeal process, and the appeals board also turned it down.
That's right.
Said it did not meet state code, and so there. In Richard's thought, I don't know if you want to speak to that. There's really not many options.
There's not, I mean, if the idea was that you want to open the barn, let's say you got a couple of weeks, you've got an event that's taking place out of the property. But it's just a way that you can open the doors and let people walk in and walk out. Porta John for that 2 hour thing, because you're not holding a major event. It's not like you're gonna, people are coming in and leave, rent the building for 5 hours and hold a conference in there. You do that, state law says you shall have, can't use porta john, you just can't have it separate. For a 3 hour thing, it may be a different ballgame that you do once a year in conjunction with other events that are happening out there. That could be a possible different idea. I have some different ideas, I know, of about the whole park system and everything that's taking place out there. And I'm going to have to wait before I run those ideas through my head, but you'll probably hear something from me, maybe in my exit day. But there is some validity to the whole parks thing, especially as I drive about. And I'll just say it, there is no dedicated person on staff to work with parks, period. You have 3 maintenance people. They're maintenance, 3. And I
One
have,
dedicated to parks
No,
for the summer
one half.
months.
one half of one.
Okay, all
One
right.
half of
They are
one.
dedicated to the park.
There's
half
one
for
half
here.
of one
That's
for
correct.
maintenance only. But thinking about what's going to happen for the long term in parks, that's a whole different ballgame. And there's no one, but that's something that this body or the next body will have to give some thought to, especially as you go through especially as you get ready to go through your budget discussion. I'm not saying it's an easy answer, but there's a lot of stuff, and but that's part of it. And there's, they're kind of left hanging to say, well, we're on our own devices. But technically, there's nothing that they can do without your authority in the end. In other words, they can't direct staff. They got to follow the same purchasing policies. Any grants they want to apply for or seek, they will also have to get your authority to do, especially if they're going to use matching funds of some sort. So there's a lot of steps that happen in this, because in the end, this body here has the final authority to go yay or nay, or whatever you want to do. But it's a thought that I'm going to leave with you on my exit, to give strong consideration to, but that's another one. You're getting ready to undertake a 5-year master plan. The bids will be before you at your next meeting. I think the bids get open next week or pretty soon of an engineering firm to undertake that plan. So that's where my open thoughts are at this point. I haven't finalized them. I just need to sit there and let it keep running around in my head and give you my best advice for whatever it's worth. So I'll take it from there.
Commissioner Ross.
Thank you. Yes, as a member of the Joint Barn Use Committee and the Miles Kimberly Subcommittee and the Parks and Rec Commission, I strongly support what we're talking about right now, that we take a really close look at how we're going to be able to support what this barn has always presented this county. It's time for us to act on this. I do want to clarify too, that this LCHIPS also went for a 2% grant to help cover it. And you didn't say that, but I feel like LCHIPS and the Barn Use Committee has really tried hard to find out a compromise or another way to go about this, and really had not gotten much response from the county. I'm kind of very disappointed in that, and I want to make that change. So whether it comes from this body or starts in the Parks and Rec and moves its way up, I think we need to seriously give this our attention in the coming months, please.
Yes.
Our history is very, very important. And I think children and families knowing our history has a lot of value. Parks are an important part of the community. And I really appreciate everything you guys do on a very limited budget with our parks, because it is limited. The tradition here in Leelanau County is we maintain low taxes. They don't feel low, We do have the lowest millage rate in the state. We just happen to have high land values, property values. So I think our citizens really need to think about this, because if we are going to do a better job on our parks, that vote has to come from the citizens of the county. It's not like we have an extra $100,000 lying around in our budget. Our budget is very tight. So we're gonna have to think about options for raising more money. I don't know if someday it would be up to the people of this county whether they want an extra tax for parks. I sure wouldn't wanna decide that. It has to be a decision of the people of the county. Millage is a scary word, but that's often the way extra projects are funded. And if we truly want to improve our parks here significantly, that's a thought. So I sure appreciate all your work. The barn is important. It would be wonderful to have kids go through the barn and learn history. Early history of Leelanau County. It's an incredibly important asset. And it's a decision we all have to think about and make. It can't be our decision alone.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anybody else? Commissioner Lautner.
Well, once again, I hardly know where to begin. The county chose not to put any money into the barn because they realized that it could simply quickly turn into $1 million project. You look at what Grand Traverse County or Traverse City and Garfield, and just look at the historic barns there and see the amount of money put into those barns. There is no end to the amount. You start talking, and this is things we talked about, what would have to happen to that barn structurally, what would have to happen to that barn with the facilities, parking, etc. It was nothing the county wanted anything to do with. So we chose to not have the barn demolished. The idea was to have the barn removed. There were lots of people looking at the barn for the wood itself. And so that was what the RFP was going to be for, to remove the barn so that it wouldn't cost the county any money. It actually would have been a funding source. Obviously from then, this group stepped forward, took full responsibility for that barn, and that was just a couple years ago. And yet now here we're like, well, now the county has to fund it. The county chose then not to fund it. That's why we're here today. So yeah, we realized if you start putting facilities in there, then you've got full-time maintenance. We have always avoided that. Same reason we don't have flush toilets at any of our other facilities. But as far as funding goes, we have maintained our parks on a very low budget. But they are beautiful parks. They're heavily used parks. I'm proud of our parks. So we have had years where Parks and Rec hasn't even spent their entire budget, even though it's a small budget. So I would encourage you to continue to go for 2% grants. We've got the opportunity before next Tuesday. Ask again, ask for multiple things. Go for other grants. But right now, and for the next few years, this is your committee's obligation to do what you choose to do with that barn. You don't have to have events that have to be held within, as Mr. Lewis said. So there's a lot you can do, as was, and that is how it was presented to us a couple of years ago. Once again, and I'm gonna say it again, we do not have low taxes in this county. Even with a low millage rate, we have high taxes. Yeah, no, we can't go for a millage to support our parks. We've been funding them through our general fund, and that's how it has to continue. We've got beautiful parks, we've got a good thing going.
Thank you. Again, it's not an action item. Does anybody else want to react to the presentation, or we'll move on? At some point, this may be an action item at a future meeting. Commissioner.
I don't want to make it sound like I think this is a dead issue. We've got to figure it out.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You want to react?
Yeah, I just want to say that we don't have any quarrel with the building safety department. They've done their job. They've done it well. They've heard our appeal, and we agreed that it was denied. We have raised and spent over $100,000 on that barn that included the restoration of a cupola and a shed roof on the west side that we have pictures of originally. And we painted the barn on top of doing all the structural repairs. We naively believed in the beginning that somewhere along the line that the county would see the value in the barn and be able to fund some of the continued repairs and to support public assembly. And that's where we're at right now. I know some of you don't believe that you should be spending money on this. We have a difference of opinion.
Thank you. And I just want to make sure you understand, we really appreciate the work you've done on the barn.
Right.
Right? I mean, it's beautiful. So, thank you. Yes.
I don't know how long these gentlemen are going to want to stay, but we're going to be talking about 2% grant later. But there was no new grant requests that were submitted to us by staff. And I know they've been warned, but if you would like to submit a grant request, if you can get that to me, your written request to us by Thursday afternoon, this Thursday afternoon, we'll plan to be putting on the agenda for next Tuesday night as an add-on, as a condition, if that's what you'd like to do. But we need it by Thursday afternoon. I know it's a quick turnaround, but we would appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you.
That way you don't have to stay for the rest of it if you don't want, but you're more than welcome to. There's coffee.
I can't imagine that you wouldn't want to stay. Thank you to the public for coming. We now have our first public comment opportunity of the day. The opening public comments are restricted to items that are on our agenda. If we call upon you and you come up here, we'd like you to introduce yourself and give us your name and let us know which item you're speaking to. We'll start back in the back of the room. Thank you, sir.
My name is Harry Steffens. I'm a precinct delegate in Leelanau Township. I also sit on the Board of Appeals. And I just really objected to that whole process. I mean, you send your county inspector, there's a county-owned barn. You send your county inspectors over there to investigate that thing, and they determine that there has to be bathrooms there. So I'm sitting on this board, and when it came time to make that decision, every one of us felt that porta potties were sufficient. I mean, you look at any event around the county, you know, they need more bathrooms, they bring some porta potties in there. And okay, yeah, you can bring a fancy one in, whatever, but it made no sense to us. But they said we couldn't change that regulation. So we all reluctantly said, well, okay, we'll back it up. So then when it came time for board comments, I said, I just want to go on the record that I strongly object to this. I said, the doggone county commissioners had no problem coughing up $200,000 to renovate their basement for another doggone government agency to come in there. They had money for that. To expand government, they got money. But to serve the people and take care of their own doggone barn, they don't have no money. That makes no sense to me. So anyway, I want to go on record saying that I strongly object to you sitting there saying you don't have the money to serve the people. It's just not right.
Thank you, Mr. Steffen.
Thank you, Harry.
Yes, Ms. Bailey.
I usually sit in the front, and that's good, but here I am. Lois Bailey from the Village of Sutton's Bay. So I fully support my friends with the Poor Farm Barn too, but that's not what I was here for. I'm here for the materials management plan that you're going to discuss later on and your collaboration with Benzie and Grand Traverse County, and I fully encourage that. We need to get going forward on this. For those who don't know, the materials management plan is mandated by the state, and all 83 counties in the state are supposed to create their plan on a set schedule. It's very rigid. So it's going to take a while to get this done. So on a related topic, remember in the time BC or before COVID, I was representing the county commission. I'm talking about recycling from the Solid Waste Council, and watched Chet hand out single-use water bottles, and it struck me that that seemed contradictory to what the Solid Waste Council was supposed to do. So now we have a bottle filling station, which is great. I'm not sure if we're still buying single-use water bottles or not. Yes, we are. So the next step would be to stop purchasing single-use water bottles for use in the county governmental center. Take that money and use it to buy some of those refillable containers like CAMA does, and you could actually put your logo on the side and start branding yourself as the reduce, renew, reuse, recycle county commission, and give yourself a pat on the back. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Our resident historian, thank you for coming.
I'm Laurel Jarris. I'm one of the founding board members of the Leelanau County Historic Preservation Society. I live in Empire Township. So appreciate your time on this. And one thing that I think might help you better understand the historical importance of the Leelanau County Poor Farm is if you make sure you view our documentary. It's recently completed. WCMU picked it up and broadcast it 3 times during the week of March 17th. It's a 26-minute film, beautifully, beautifully done by our videographer, Joe Vandermeulen. And you can view it by going to our website, which is lchp.org. And that's one way. If there's a link right there, it says click here for the video. And the other way you can do it is search by the title of it, which I'll give you in a second, on YouTube. It's also posted on YouTube. And you just search under Saving the Barn, the Leelanau County Poor Farm. So those 2 ways of getting to the video will take you to, I think, an experience you'll really enjoy and learn a lot about the importance of this historical aspect of Leelanau County. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Yes.
Good morning, County Commissioners. My name is Margie Klesny. I'm a resident of Cleveland Township. Thank you for welcoming me. I'm here today referencing action item number 4, Senior Services. And I thank the Senior Services Department for all of the good quality care they provide seniors. By way of referencing the department, parroting communities, the staff and the head for all of the good work they provide for the subset of the population on the other side of our aging spectrum. I am most impressed with the annual report 2023 that was published that provides a pie chart of where income and expenses and the services they provide. I asked once before, and I'm inquiring, would the fine quality Department of Senior Services possibly be able to present something like this to the county residents so we can appreciate what they're doing and where our monies are going? They surely have a lot to be glad to let us know in a very easy to read format. Thank you so much. Thank you, elected officials and employed officials, for all the work you do, not only here, but outside of this room. I see you out there volunteering and being active. I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's nice to hear, isn't it? Anybody else, public comment? Thank you very much. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I missed you, Steve.
Good morning. I see this barn issue, which is important to some people, but I'm trying to understand something. This is a project, a unique project, but I don't recall the electors of this county petitioning the county to preserve the barn. Anyone remember that? So unless that occurs, the county commission should not act on this issue. It can be handled by other means. Otherwise, this thing becomes a self-initiated project by this board, self-initiation. And it's an opportunity to spend lots of money, an unlimited amount, because we never know at the inception of a project like this, how many hundreds of $1,000s it'll cost us as we want to expand the facilities to take all kinds of venues and hold all types of functions. So again, we caution the commissioners to let personal passions dictate. If the people of this county want something enough, they will lawfully petition for it. Otherwise, leave them alone. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Yes.
I'm Steve Steyer. I live in Empire Township still. I'm a founding member of the Michigan Barn Preservation Network. We've been in business for nearly 30 years. And I'm aware of several counties and townships and other public organizations that own barns. And I've seen the wonderful visionary things that they can do with those barns. And that's why I believe that this barn could serve this county at a much higher way than it does at this point. It can be a valuable asset to the Parks Commission and the county. And I have the vision that that can happen here. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes. Ms. Weiler.
Hi, I'm Renee Weiler, and I live in a barn on Eagle Highway, the old Couturier barn, the Cherry Barn. And this barn was restored, was built in 1907, I believe, and it was restored by Craig Miller with his own private funds. And then another person purchased it and turned it into a home. And I think that's a very awesome way to preserve our barns. And a lot of renovation has been going on and turning these into homes. And I think that's very admirable. I do not like to see any more millage put on to our seniors here. Our seniors are struggling to keep their homes. My husband just told me that Leelanau County is the oldest county per capita in the nation. Is that true? So we have the oldest population that is trying to stay in their homes. And we keep putting on this millage and that millage, and we got into fiber optics, and that's turned into a $5 million disaster. I still don't know how many subscribers we have for that. So we've got to be protecting the majority of our citizens who are older. I keep seeing people being, their homes, these older people, being foreclosed for tax forfeitures. That's a very big concern. And we have a deed problem. In fact, this is a gaming program that appeared when I was
I think
searching
that's not on our
for
agenda
deeds.
as well.
I'm sorry, sir, but I
You could
respectfully ask for
Speak to that
you.
end of-
This is a national security.
We will take a minute to.
All right. So this is a breach of our land records, and it is a serious business.
Ready, Jen? Before we, I'd like to call the meeting back to order. One of the duties of the chair is to make sure that the rules of order that this board approves are followed. I don't like to not allow you to speak, but I must have you obey our rules. If you want to speak about any issue, you can do it at the end of the meeting. At the beginning of the meeting, your public comments must relate directly to the agenda items on our agenda. Thank you. Any other public comment? Any commissioner comment? Yes.
I'm just gonna say one more time that this barn is located on county property. It has always been the county's property. This barn and the land it sits under. We have an obligation to work with this organization and the Parks and Recreation Commission to find a solution. I'm not saying we need to put bathrooms in there, but we need to find a way to use this asset to its highest potential within the realm of the law and our county budget. And I think, as Steve Steyer has said, we are an incredible county with an incredible opportunity in front of us. Let's not shy away from some hard work and some hard dialogues, but there's got to be a way. There's got to be a way. Thank you.
Any other? Yes, Commissioner Lautner?
We found a way. We are very cognizant of the fact that we own the property under the barn. We own the barn. County had many discussions about this barn. In fact, there was a motion to light a match to it in, I believe, 2003. And it was because of Glenn Noonan that didn't happen. So we're very aware of that. The county recognized all of that. This group stepped forward and took that responsibility. That was the answer. They said, let's save it. And we went along with that. We said, that's great. Let's do that. Have at it. Raise money. They said they could raise money, and they did, and they have done a fabulous job. There's no question about that. But to now come in here and say, well, what we really meant is like, if we do this, we will come back and ask the county to fund us. The county has 3 parks to fund, and this is one way to do that. It just all boils down to what can happen. The barn can be used for educational purposes, which is what was discussed at the time. It does not need to be taken to the step of holding events inside the barn. As was said, many people are taking old barns in this county, putting hundreds of thousands of dollars into them, and then opening them up for public use. It happens all the time. The county chose not to do that based on the fact that there's so much more. And you can go back and look at the records of the discussions. But when it comes down to managing that project and the maintenance of that project and the employees involved in that project, we chose not to tax our citizens more. And on top of this, as someone just said, the taxation, I just had a conversation with a farmer in our county who is selling off his land. His taxes are $30-some thousand a year. 30-some thousand. So what does he have to do? He's lopping off lots on the back just to try to save the rest of it. Because, oh, it's only a half mil. It's only a mil. But when 1 mil costs him thousands of dollars, we've got to be careful. We have been very careful. We found a solution. We have a solution. So we just need to continue on with the solution we discovered we have. And we've got many parks that benefit all of our counties. And the Parks and Recreation has not recognized the barn as their #1 priority. Parks and Recreation is working on the athletic portion of that park where we can have a paved loop that you can take your senior and push them in a wheelchair. You can take your children and push them in a stroller. You can take your child with their little balance bike and go around the loop. They can safely, they're not on the roads, they can safely use these loops. It'll be a loop that children can learn to ride their bikes on. That's where the priority of the parks is for all generations. And we got a good system. We just need to keep up with it. We don't need to tax our citizens out of their home and barn.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comments? I wanted to commend, for my comment, I'd like to commend Heather Gade for the very successful appreciation celebration of public staff. All of our staff, or a lot of our staff, were there. There's a banner out in the parking lot that Richard Lewis ordered, and we didn't use county funds for it. So if you're willing to help out with the cost of that, I did send out an email. But we're going to display that in the building and remind staff every day that they are appreciated. And that the banner right now was placed in the middle of the parking lot because it's between two very important buildings. And we want to recognize both sides of the campus. Thank you.
For that.
Yes. At this time, we'll go to our action item, and the first item on the agenda is the sheriff.
But if you don't mind, I'll start this one that deals with the impulse. No action is being required of you today. It's more of an update. And one of the items we said last month that we would bring you a flow chart as it relates to utilizing the impulse grant. We also sent our agreement to our attorneys to make sure we were okay with that. In the packet is the revised agreement they have recommended that we will use if we utilize a grant and have a candidate. As you can see, this is the flow chart. You may keep it for your information. But just because you say, yes, we're going to utilize the cold grant, last month, there are still decisions that you will have to make if we're going to utilize it. First of all, as you can see in step number 2, we're only going to utilize the grant if and when there's going to be an opening. And that's something the Sheriff's Department will go through, like such as where we want to try to utilize it for this fall. We will have to come before you to say, okay, we know we're going to have an opening in our department on X date or very close to that X date. We got to bring all that to you to show that. Or if we have a current employment, the person may leave about a month after the candidate finishes school, but all candidates still have to go through some in-house training, so they won't be ready, but an opening is going to occur, we know it. And so you will have to give them permission to utilize the grant for that employee, to send that individual to the academy. So there is other approvals. And then when we submit the grant, you will also have to actually physically submit the grant. So there are decision trees that'll come back to you to utilize the grant. We just wanted you to see it. There's the flow chart we mentioned to you. We'll keep that apprised. As we probably go through our very first one, we may have to do some modifications to it, but that's all the experiment that we do. But we do have the reimbursement agreement that our attorneys have recommended that we would utilize if we have a candidate that wants to go through the school. So our next step is to get our letter of understanding completed with the union, which will also be coming back to you for your ultimate approval also. So that's kind of where we wanted to leave it with you, as we said we would bring that back to you. We did, and I'm sorry this came to you late. I thought Lauren and I did a pretty job of getting most things in there, but we missed a couple, so oh well, darn. But anyway, if you see something that we can improve on that, or a question you have, please get back with myself or the sheriff or under sheriff, so we can make those improvements to it. We would appreciate that. So fair enough, Sheriff?
Absolutely. And I give credit to Under Sheriff Jim Kiesel
Yes.
for preparing this flow chart as requested by County Administrator. Try to put some sense into this. You know, I've been talking for a few meetings in a row now. We're losing people. We're bleeding. We lost another one Friday. Can't afford to live here. He's moving back to Clare County. He has a kid. His girlfriend has 4 kids. She was a babysitter down there. Long and short of it is he can't afford housing here. And that is an issue we know about. We're getting behind the curve. We lost 2 earlier in the year. We replaced them. Now we lost 2 more and 1 more from corrections. So we're really hurting. And I brought this up before, but we're in desperate need to get about a $10 an hour pay, some type of a pay adjustment on and beyond union stuff I'm talking about, to keep up with state police, DNR, National Park Service, FBI, the other law enforcement agencies are all making somewhere $10 or more an hour. And we just can't keep running like this because it costs a lot of money and time and effort to bring these people up. And this is why this pre-academy that MCOLS is paying for is so important. 1, it saves the individual who is going into law enforcement, and very few are, by the way. It saves them the money and gets them in the process and the system. 2, it saves us time and effort because we can start projecting, all right, we're gonna have somebody to fill those shoes at this point. But right now, and the undersheriff can correct me, we're somewhere near 60% of our budget overtime is gone already this year, and it's May. Because when these people leave, they're in the FTO process, field training officer process. When they leave, then we have to have all kinds of overtime while the FTO is training them. And then when they leave, we have to basically offer overtime, which is fine if you want to work overtime. They're on 12-hour shifts. But when you force them to work an extra 6 or 8 hours a day, and we're limited to 18, so that'd be an extra 6, it's hard on them. And then that's where mistakes can happen. So it's of crucial importance. And I don't know how to approach a board because I'm not the union, but I'm just telling you as sheriff, we're way behind other people on wages. So I want to throw that out to you. And that's why this is so important to have this process for MCOLS and the local academy. Okay, so if that covers MCOLS enough with the flow chart.
I'll have questions, but we would welcome feedback as you look through it all.
And I'm assuming you're not looking for action on this. You're just presenting this as a.
This is what we'll be using. You knew we were going to have to do a letter of agreement with them, unless y'all have to take action, but I can bring that back later if you need it. It's just an understanding of what's going to take place. So,
right.
Commissioner comments, questions?
I'm glad that you have this opportunity.
So
Thank you.
This agreement's just between sheriff and the county. But I don't think we need a letter of understanding from the union on this. I think this is all we're going to need.
we might, because there's a wage involved in it, and they would be considered a county employee. It's going to be lower than their entry work.
Well,
We need to go through the process.
I think we got an opinion on that. So I think we're good. I believe.
I don't think we got an opinion, but I'll find out. Okay.
All right, yeah, and because, yeah, and the wage is just, it's at the wage we're at.
Well,
Our starting wage, comes in at 20,
no,
20.
They started 24 an hour. This proposal with the MCO's agreement would put them at academy at a lesser rate. And we do have to work with the union on it because technically their employee, their union covers their activities. And I'll be honest with you, one of the dilemmas I face right now, I called a guy yesterday who's an officer in another jurisdiction, already trained, great PR person, the right personality to come to this county and work with people, because we're not all about arresting people and tickets. PR is extremely important to me. And he is thinking about it. We tried to get him before, but he makes 31 something an hour now at a other local jurisdiction. We have to start him at 24 an hour. And he's asking me, is there any way rather than $7 pay cut, we can come like halfway up the seniority ladder, which is a 4-year increment from 24 to get up to the 30 an hour. And I really can't do that right now. I really don't have the authority to do. I can for the Marine Safety Division, but with a union, I have to get an agreement with the union and a contract.
It's one talk to the other. Right now, he's paying $7 an hour out of pocket for some of his health care. He doesn't pay that here.
But and I understand our benefits are really good. I agree, Commissioner, but here's the problem. Your health care doesn't make your car payment or your house payment.
But they're
That's,
paying out of pocket anyway, so we just have to recognize.
We've made those arguments, but they don't care.
I understand that.
They want us, they want the cash in the pocket and they'll pay it out, but.
but it's how it's working right now. You know, we're dealing with a different recruiting situation now. And, you know, I come to you because like Grand Traverse County, after their contracts are all settled, they're gonna be about 39, National Park Service, just under 40, State Police, 42, DNR. So that said, it's a larger picture, and that's why it's difficult to project it sometimes and get people. But I just want to let you know we are trying, but that's a difficulty we're having getting these high quality people in. So, all right.
I bet we'll hear more about that later. Can we move to the next agenda item?
Okay, Cherry Land Humane Society. Any questions on that?
Yeah, what are we going to do when this is done?
Well, I've spoken to Benzie and Grand Traverse. They know that this probably, at least the way Cherryland Humane Society is trending, that there's probably gonna have to, I mean, Benzie has a kennel, but it's very tiny now. They are looking to rebuild a new one, which would actually be probably closer to Leelanau than the Humane Society is when it's all said and done. Grand Traverse too knows they have a problem that they're gonna have to address. They're also looking at a kennel. I mean, I don't think a kennel is feasible for Leelanau. We don't deal with enough animals to have our own. So I think a contract with either Benzie or Grand Traverse is probably what's in the future for 2027 and beyond, because I mean, we have to do something to deal with the animals that we do get, and Humane Society is probably going to be off the table.
That'll be next year's dilemma, I guess. We're good for this year with this agreement, but that's definitely coming down the road.
So we had, Mike, you would remember, we had a local animal rescue group or business. Do you know if they're still around? Because they were interested in one time of taking this on. Do you know if there's still?
That might be something we could do next year, you know. We need to have someone in writing that, yes, we can take a biting dog there, a dog that's diseased or old, nobody else wants to pay for. Our deputies, 2 of our deputies have recently been dealing with dogs. Dogs are a big issue for us. Wayne Kelchek, our animal control deputy, is the busiest for complaints, reports, all stuff in the entire county of all our people. He's the busiest. So it is something where we have to have it in writing for sure. We can take that dog there tomorrow. And sometimes the volunteer organizations and people like that, they're not capable of doing it on a larger scale. So I'm in agreement with the undersheriff. I'm kind of leaning toward Benzie right now. And Benzie, there's plenty of space for it. They seem to have the interest in it. Grand Traverse is going to try something as well. But just like we board the Grand Traverse inmates and we bill them daily, we would do that on dogs. So, you know, that's our primary concern. So again, we're going to be good with this contract now, but for next year, this will be a big discussion item. We'll try to do all that math and paperwork and present you with our representative opinion. This should work. So for right now, this is interim.
I move to recommend that the County Board of Commissioners approve both contracts between Leelanau County, the Leelanau County Sheriff's Office and the Cherry Lane Humane Society with the dates January 1st, 2025 to September 30th, 2026, and October 1st, 2026 through December 31st, 2026. The board also authorizes the chairperson to sign the contracts on the county's behalf.
Support.
Any more discussion? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved 7-0. Thank you.
Under special event contracts, the county administrator, the undersheriff have been working on a contract with Leelanau's legal counsel. And if you have any questions regarding that, and that contract basically says that these entities may be sometimes 80 a year, sometimes 60 a year. These entities that have private events like 5K runs and M22 challenge and swimming events, it takes up a lot of time, money, and effort of our agency to basically investigate those, look into them, provide and services of which there needs to be a contract. So the administrator's been working with the undersheriff. I think the contract's good in place, but if you have any questions, we'd be glad to answer them. Yes.
Commissioner Ogata.
I move to recommend that the County Board of Commissioners approve the boilerplate agreement for supplemental law enforcement services. Contract services.
Yeah, there's a typo. I didn't catch that one either.
Oh, okay. Contract and further allow the sheriff and the county administrator to sign the contracts on behalf of the county as needed.
Or,
Any discussion?
so
Mr.
you
Russ?
didn't have a contract before this?
So this has been going on for long before I was the lieutenant, the predecessor, at least a decade, if not more. There's always been a contract. The big change to this is having the event who is asking for the services provide insurance indemnification proof to the county, kind of reverse of the county policy. We hire somebody to come in and do plumbing. We prove to them and show that we have insurance. In these, they are asking for our services. Why it was done the way it was before, I couldn't tell you. I always looked at it as a private contract, independent service. We were gonna probably be there regardless, but most of these nonprofits were, we've been charging them since at least 2013, if not before.
The identification part is very important. For instance, one of the events we have coming up is the swim across the bay. Now, if someone drowns, why should this county or us, why should we be liable for that? We can provide boats on the water for safety, keep other boats away from swimmers, but this is the kind of thing that without a contract, without indemnification by those requesting entities, that we put ourselves at risk and we just don't feel it's worth it. So I like the idea of the contract.
When they brought one to me and I'm going to do that agreement, it was pretty simple, probably half a page. And there was no backup to say, y'all have insurance in case something, there wasn't anything there. And I said, I'm not signing this and putting our risk out there. Not that I expect something, I just wanted to make sure that this body, this county, what was covered in case something, God forbid, bad happens, that is done. So legal came up with this, and the only thing I want to mention is put the Richard Lewis name in there. It will be deleted in the draft because come August 1, maybe.
You're gonna, if approved, you will see a couple before August, I can tell you that.
I know, but still, if it's gonna be a blanket form, my name doesn't need to be in the blanket form.
You keep reminding us.
I do.
Short term.
Well, y'all got something important you're gonna be doing later. I'm just trying to remind you something.
Any questions on this? Yes, Kathy.
I was just going to mention, these events, typically, I would imagine these events have their own event rider policy. They buy it from an entity, an insurance company. What they'll do on their event rider is list Leelanau County as additional insured. That's what that's all
That's what it's
about.
all
So
about.
we just need to make sure that when they sign the contract, they give us their event rider and that we're listed as additional insured.
That's right.
Thank you.
Good catch.
We ready to vote?
Yep.
All those in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved 7-0. Thank you.
Great. Lastly is the marine safety grant application and acceptance of the grant. $45,100 is coming from DNR. This comes from boater registration fees statewide. Over the years, they sell a lot of boats, don't sell many, this and that. One of the big problems they have statewide is they do not license kayaks or canoes. The vast majority of our drownings are on kayaks and canoes, our body searches, our multi-day recoveries, our equipment, our side scan sonar, and all these different things that are attached to it. So that said, our share is 45,000. Again, I wish it was higher, but we're asking the board to approve our getting that money from the DNR for our marine operational funds.
Mr. Renfro.
I move to recommend that the County Board of Commissioners accept the Marine Safety Program Grant Agreement as awarded from the Michigan Department of Natural Resources in the amount of $45,100. We also authorize the board chair to sign the agreement as the grantee and return the approved and signed document to the undersheriff for submission to the DNR.
Second.
Did you get the second on that, Jen?
I have multiple, so I'm just gonna pick a couple.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved 7-0.
Thank you. While we're still on marine safety, one more thing. On May 20th, the safe boat that we got the grant for from the federal government, Homeland Security, is going to be shipped from Washington State here. Should arrive sometime between the 23rd and 25th. It'll be shipped on a big flatboat trailer. We'll have to unload it off the trailer at one of the facilities, either in Grelikville or Northport. Get in the water, then we'll start immediate training with it. But that 8-year project to get the grant and then the 1 year to build the boat, they get the boat done just in plenty of time for this summer. So we're going to be in a process of training, and thank you for your support on that. That's going to be a great asset for safety for Leelanau County, and in that we're surrounded by 3 sides of water. That's high priority. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're now down to the Leland Dam plan.
In your packet is a report from engineering as it relates to the hydraulic power system that's at the Leland Dam. This report was reviewed. You had hired mentioned engineering to develop a request for a proposal for repair or modifications to the hydraulic power system. The Leland Dam Authority did a review the recommendation we mentioned. The very good news is it's not nearly as in bad a shape as everyone thought it might be. So it's going to take a little less work to do. The bad news is it's over our $5,000 limit. And we're asking that because everything, as you can see, the request in the mentioned report, that most of the items from Michigan Fluid Power is on the shelf. They're ready to do it, including in their proposals that they'll have our maintenance crews go through a training as well as update on all of the operation of the equipment in there. And we have come up with we have not received a formal proposal from them at this point, but we do have probable cause, and including the engineering administration that may come up, which is probably high, plus a 15% contingency if it needs to come about. The total cost is going to be $20,900 at the worst case scenario, but the contract with MFP is at $14,200. We have recommended that you go ahead and waive the bid process, and simply because, you know, these folks have the expertise. We don't need to be hiring somebody to come in and learn everything and come up with a different way of operating it. Also, a good thing about this hydraulic system, it's got enough redundancy built into the system. It is amazing. It's in good shape overall. So we just like to continue and get this done. But before we receive a formal proposal from Michigan Hydraulic, whatever their name was, we wanted to make sure you waive the bid. If not, then we'll ask Michigan to go out and prepare a bid. But now it's just, we're going to be waiting out another month, if not longer, before we get these repairs done. But we think we can do it simply for $14,200 and get it done. So.
Did you say me?
Yes.
I would move to recommend that the County Board of Commissioners, number one, waives seeking a request for proposal as in the best interest of the public due to knowledge, expertise, and availability of MFP to undertake the Leland Dam repairs modifications. 2, direct Michigan engineering to request a formal proposal from MFP for review by machine engineering and county staff. And 3, authorize the board chair to execute an agreement, contract with MFP if said proposal is within the probable construction cost outline.
Commissioner Rushroth?
I guess I don't have a problem with this, other than I'm a little uncomfortable with because probably, I think that when you would amend your motion to put a maximum amount on this, because it's basically letting loose of the whole thing once we say it. So we let loose the entire authority to do everything, so I'm uncomfortable with that motion without saying, I know it says probable construction cost, but that's not specific enough, I guess, for my taste.
Well, if you want to do that, I would add the 14,200 and the 2,700, add them together.
And that's fine, yeah.
Okay, well, then do you want to put that in there of $16,900, probable construction cost not to exceed $16,900? Then that's fine.
I would amend as such.
A friendly amendment, just to include that, not to exceed 16.
Why don't we make it 17?
Yeah, I mean, that's fine, yeah.
We do have on page 48, though, a total estimated project cost of 20,900. So what?
Well, the other 4,000 is for the engineering construction. They are already on contract with us, so, and they don't think it's gonna come close to that amount. And I'm putting in the contingency in there, but the contingency, I'm looking for something at the 14,200, leaving the rest up there. As you know, sir, when you get into it, you don't know what else you're gonna find.
Yep.
So.
I'm comfortable adding the not to exceed 17,000.
Commissioner Roy?
Just for clarification, MFP is Michigan Fluid Power out of Hudsonville. So,
yeah,
we just talk about, acronyms, initials, and. Thank you.
Steve, thanks for coming today. Do you have anything you'd like to say before?
I apologize for that. I should have written it out, so no problem.
The dam authority did direct all of this to happen. We looked at it closely. Hiring Pat Mashin was the right move. Having him research Michigan Fluid Power was the right move. We're doing the best for the money and we're not spending extra. It really, I think, worked out beautifully.
Perfect. Any other questions? Yes, Commissioner Luther?
Doug picked up on the first thing that I was going to say is that I run into have a not to exceed in the cost, because even though it said as outlined, I think it should be in the motion.
Okay.
And we just have to go on this. I got a trust machine that this is a good price. I know hydraulics can be expensive and this is a pretty big project. I would have liked to have seen bids, but I also understand that this is probably pretty limited in who's an expertise in this sort of thing. And we do want it done right, so.
Ready to vote? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved 7-0. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're now at senior services and care provider recommendation agreement.
Good morning. Leelanau County Senior Services, we provide in-home services to eligible seniors as well as foot care services. And all of our agreements are expiring this year. So what I have before you is my recommendation in the EDS on page 50, outlining the bid process that was posted, and we received 4 bids in response to the RFP. And I am looking for acceptance of the proposals with Comfort Keepers, Linda Lingar, and Janet Flowers to provide in-home services and foot care.
Commissioner Russ?
I move to recommend that the County Board of Commissioners accept the proposals for in-home senior care services in response to the LCAO RFP 2024-001 from Comfort Keepers, Linda Lingauer, and Janet Flowers.
Support.
Any discussion? Yes.
I just wish our deputies could get $45 an hour. Just a point.
Seniors pay for parties. I remember that.
Yeah,
The employees don't get 45 an hour.
Commissioner Ekstrom?
yeah, that's an all encompassing rate, includes their transportation, their own healthcare insurance and everything, so I don't think they end up with near 45 in their pocket.
Real close.
And this doesn't say per hour, it says per unit.
Anyway,
Hour.
are we ready to vote? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is Gail Meyer here? Hi, Gail.
Gail's here.
First on page 53 of our packet.
Bill and I will tag team a little bit on this one. As you heard earlier, the state of Michigan has mandated that all counties have and develop a materials management plan. And I think it's got to be done within the next 60 to 90 days, so it's pretty quick. Anyway, the county has been working or conversation with Benzie County and Grand Traverse County to come together to form one plan between all of us that could be managed by Grand Traverse County. You will see in front of you the proposal that it came from Grand Traverse County, that how they would work. Chris Forsythe is here, that I'm glad to go through it for you to explain what can be expected. We're still on a pretty quick timeline, as you can see that today you're moving forward with us to develop an intergovernmental agreement, and that will have to come back to you for your approval. So, I mean, it's a continuing process. A lot of this has to be done by the end of June, if not before, and in order to be in compliance. So, I don't know which way we're supposed to go with this, but you'd like to hear from Chris Forsythe first. But also in your packet, we put a copy of the overview of the materials management planning, the quick guides for you to review. Again, this is not, well, we wish we did, this is a good idea. No, it's a mandate. So whether we like it or don't like it, this is where we have to be moving forward with. So
Chris, thanks for coming. Do you want to come up to the table and share the proposal?
Morning. My name is Chris Forsythe. I'm Deputy County Administrator with Grand Traverse County. With me also is Lydia Gulo. Lydia is our Resource Recovery Department Director. So as Administrator Lewis indicated, we did provide you with a 2-page document that outlines the benefits of developing a regional plan, which primarily are twofold. One is this is increased funding from the state of Michigan. Again, this is a mandated service that we all have to provide. And by working collaboratively, we increase our opportunity for funding from the state versus if you were to do this on your own, or if Grand Traverse County were to do this on our own, our funding would be significantly less than what we're anticipating. The second reason to do this would just be for efficiency. As far as the solid waste industry goes, we all work with the same haulers, recyclers, other people in this industry. They're all clustered here in this area. So it just makes sense that if we're going to have to put together a materials management committee, the committee members would be the same, whether it's Leelanau or Benzie or Grand Traverse. So if they're all the same, why not work collaboratively? The third thing I'd like to point out, we do have a history of collaboration with Leelanau County and Benzie County. So we've got a long history of partnerships. So with that, I'm happy to offer more detail or answer any questions you may have.
Kramer?
Can I move to recommend that the County Board of Commissioners move forward on the development of an intergovernmental agreement with Grand Traverse County and Benzie County for the purposes of developing a multi-county materials management plan? Support.
Any discussion? Yes, Commissioner Elgar?
So what are you thinking this will look like? I mean, will we still have our local recycling centers and
Yes, I mean, that's not gonna change.
you'll be like the Toski?
We will,
Recycle everything?
how, we might. It's hard to say at this point without,
Good place.
without the plan in place. We have to get through the planning process. That could take 2 to 3 years. It's hard to comment on what we're gonna look like. I think to just reiterate what Gail just said is that it really doesn't change from the various facilities or the places you can go to recycle. It really just becomes a more centralized planning process with one oversight administrator, which we, being the largest county, we're willing to take on that administrator role.
And what is the program Bob McCord is?
That's composting.
Could that be part of it?
It has to be part of it.
It has to be part of it.
Diverting food waste is gonna have to be part of it.
So you'll do that too.
That's something we would look at, yeah. So I have some like statistics, just like. what-
Ma'am.
Do you want me to
Move up to the
chime
next-
in?
Give your name, please.
Lydia Gulo with Resource Recovery with Grand Traverse County. I just like to point out like where we're at in our diversion rates in the state. So Michigan's recycling rate is 21% and the US like national rate is actually 34%. And Michiganders generate on average 7.28 pounds of waste per day versus the US's average of 4.5 pounds. So the goal of this MMP plan is to actually increase our diversion rate. And a big part of that would be organics, but obviously there's a lot of inorganics that we have to address too, so.
As the planning proceeds, this may be a question for Gail. How do we make sure that Leelanau County is a part of that planning process?
Well, I believe we will have final approval.
Yeah, the Board of Commissioners will have final approval. You're guaranteed a minimum two local elected officials to serve on the planning committee.
Thank you. Thank you.
Locally elected?
Locally elected, minimum.
Locally elected. So how about people, for instance, from our solid waste council? Non-elected.
You are the elected officials.
Yeah.
People, volunteers that you appoint to boards.
You should include those folks because they've been at this for years and it is the.
This is a state requirement they have to be elected officials. Lee, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not all of them, it looks like.
Yeah, the composition of the planning committee is made up of local elected officials, as well as local industry involved in
Yeah,
solid
so
waste.
like a solid waste disposal facility operator, which would be like waste management, representative of a hauler of managed materials recovery facility operator, which would be like GFL, composting facility or anaerobic digester. The county and Traverse City share a composting facility or brush site. A waste diversion, reuse or reduction facility operator, which would be like Andy Gale from BARC. So we already have a good idea of who would make up that committee, and then we just would obviously need different elected officials to be a part of it.
Any other questions or comments?
But one other thing that's gonna happen if you approve this moving forward, one thing that I will have, you have to do, I have it in there. But another thing is that the same attorney represents all 3 counties. So I will be signing a waiver for him to be able to help prepare the intergovernmental agreement for all 3. So he represents all 3 of us, so I'm just letting you know that, but I haven't done anything until you all make a decision today, so.
Makes me shiver a little bit.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Sir, I understand.
All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for coming. We next have the remonumentation peer group agreement.
Yeah. You remember last month I had the grant for your approval. So now I have the peer group agreements and the service agreements with each of our surveyors. These are the same agreements we've been using over the years. They've been sent to corporate council, updated with this year's grant information. So I just need approval on these to move forward.
I move to recommend that the County Board of Commissioners approve the monumentation and remonumentation peer group agreements as prepared by corporate council with Onan Land Surveying, Holbert Land Survey, and Grand Traverse Surveying, $700 each. The cost of posting a remonumentation account 101-245-801-000. Support.
Any discussion?
Is this the same price? I mean, about.
The peer group?
Yeah.
Yes. The grant was different this year than.
The grant was.
It's been moved and seconded. Are we ready to vote? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved 7-0.
The next one, I've got another peer group agreement for Vicky Brown. Hers is just a little bit different because she is our county rep.
So do we have a motion?
I move to recommend that the County Board of Commissioners approve the remonumentation peer group agreement with Leelanau Land Surveying as prepared by corporate council with costs to come from remonumentation account 101-475-245-801-000.
Support.
Support.
All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved 7-0.
The last one is for the surveyor services agreement.
Commissioner Rexroth.
Move to recommend that the County Board of Commissioners approve the surveyor services agreements with Onan Land Survey, Holbert Land Survey, Grand Traverse Survey, and Leelanau Land Survey as prepared by corporate council with costs to come from remonumentation account number 101-475-245-801-000.
Second.
All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved 7-0.
You want me to do the land bank one too?
You're on a roll. I'm gonna let you just keep going.
So Richard Ishfording resigned from the land bank. And so the land bank authority met, discussed, I think it was 5 applicants. And they passed a motion to recommend appointing David King to the land bank authority.
Commissioner Hogan?
Thank you very much.
Out of my eyes, she raised her hand first. I'm going to let Commissioner Lautner make a recommendation. Commissioner Lautner.
Or I would recommend to the County Board of Commissioners to appoint Mr. David King to the Leelanau County Land Bank Authority for a partial term expiring 12/31/2026.
Support.
Was it, who said, did you second that?
I did.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Lautner and seconded by Commissioner Algar.
I object.
I flashed
Yes, Commissioner Algar.
I would just like to say that David King is in Brownfield already. He is an attorney. And it was the feeling of other members, it would be valuable to have him in both. A lot of the issues are the same. He was willing to do that. And so.
Very nice.
And he'll be a valuable member.
You ready to vote?
That's correct.
All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved 7-0. And that brings us to 11 o'clock, and I think it's time for a 7-minute break.
Wow.
Seven, wow.
Nice, crazy, guys. I don't know. Exactly.
But when I first feel better.
Start setting that. And I don't. It's terrible. Oh. Yeah, we got. I'm conscious, Scott.
I got it. The only good thing about that is these guys, it costs me $5, so enjoy that together.
Pretty,
You
were.
I'm good.
We're live.
And I always.
I was way too nice. I was a good girl. It's time to change.
Oh, I was never on time.
Look at everybody
Somebody give Commissioner Faulkner a target.
Pink slip.
Goes on her permanent record, right?
Orders get $10.
I don't have $10. I just paid my taxes. I don't have $10 left.
Kathy, do you have the next item?
I do.
Okay, well, so we will begin. Are you ready, Jen?
Yep.
Item number 6.
Okay, Michael Roof was going to present. He was not able to be here today, so I'm presenting it on his behalf. You have a Soldiers and Sailors Fund that he, upon occasion, has a veteran present from Leelanau County that needs some assistance, and they qualify, given some litmus test parameters. And those funds have been depleted a little more rapidly this year than we've seen in the past. And so we did pay the last bill utilizing some of the fund balance. So in anticipation that we have 7 months of the year left, if you would be so kind as to consider increasing that Soldiers and Sailors Fund by 5,000. We'll only move it if it's necessary. We'll utilize the fund balance first, but it would just help with the expediency of some of those requests.
Commissioner Retro?
Move to recommend that the Board of Commissioners increase the 2024 Soldiers and Sailors Relief Expense 101.580.689.999.000 in the amount of $5,000 for amended budget of $10,000 for operating transfer out to the Soldiers and Sailors Fund as needed, funds to come from the general fund.
Support. Any discussion? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved 7-0. Thank you.
If I could just add, the contract we have with Grand Traverse County for that service to be in our building 1 day a week is expiring at the end of this year. So you will be seeing a contract for renewal coming forward sometime during the budget cycle, I'm sure. And I believe that Michael does a presentation. I think it's in the fall. It's on the rotational presentation schedule. So you'll see him come before you then. Soldiers and Sailors is funded in Grand Traverse County by an operational millage. I just thought you'd like to know that.
So you're presenting the equalization?
I am.
Okay.
Andrew is teaching a class today, so he asked me to present your L 4029, which has some fun math on it. And it gives you, in column 9, your maximum allowable millage levy as permitted with the Headley rollback. And this is something that you will consider setting your millage rate. You can look at it for a week and come back next week to set it. I have some math for you if you'd like to know. Last month, Andrew presented you a very nice equalization report. And utilizing the figures that he presented on page 10, the taxable value of $3.945 billion times the column 9, which is your maximum allowable, would generate $13,054,368 in revenue. That would be approximately $934,666 more than what was generated with your 23 taxable value.
$934,666 more than what was generated on your 23 taxable value with your 23 maximum allowed millage.
That's the $1 million they referred to last month.
Yes.
So but we budgeted 12.
You did use a fund balance forward to balance your 24 budget of $1,186,896.
Any other questions? Anybody have a motion?
Question, we could roll back. Are we gonna?
I-
Back into fund balance?
If I could remind you of some of your large
Obligations?
ticket items that you've obligated yourselves to.
Okay.
At committee of the whole, you did understand that we have $1 million of the point broadband that we discussed utilizing DTR. There's no board motion to do so, but we did discuss it. You also have the ongoing conversation with Charter regarding the west side, which worst case scenario is another possibly 1.1 million. We are in a slow replacement of heat pumps for $750,000. We'll draw from possibly DTR. We are okay right now. As needed, as we do those, they're not all going to be replaced at one time. So you've got some big ticket items just to keep in the back of your mind when you're contemplating setting your millage rate next week.
Commissioner O'Hara.
I move to recommend to the County Board of Commissioners to approve a millage rate that does not exceed the maximum allowable millage levy, column 9. Replace that millage rate in column 10 as the millage rate requested to be levied on January 1, and return the L 4029 to the Equalization Director.
Perfect.
Mr. Lewis, oh, do we have a second?
Support.
Also, just as a reminder, you will be going through budget season. And so I'm sure there's going to be other things that will be coming up. You've heard some concerns that the sheriff has raised. So, I mean, I'm sure that $1 million will go pretty quick with things that you've already committed to.
Yeah, it's gone.
As soon as we could earmark one of those commitments we've made, the better, so that we don't nickel and dime it away, because that's where I see this going.
And I understand that, but that's fine.
Yeah,
It doesn't take long.
Maybe for next week's meeting, when we finally approve this, Kathy, you could prepare a little summary of
Sure.
what we've committed to so that we have that for the meeting.
I'll bring back the one that we talked about at committee of the whole.
Is it possible to do that prior to the meeting?
Yes.
So that we have a look at it?
We can put it in with this packet, the information in your packet, whatever comes out this Friday. So, yeah.
Any other questions or discussion? All those in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved 7-0. Thank you. Mr. Lewis, we now have the late edition item.
7A.
7A, yes.
7A, this is a late edition item. It's a request from the Leelanau County Energy Futures Task Force. They would like permission to prepare a grant application to Eagle's Community Energy Management Grants. What they then want to be able to use as a cover the cost of a proposed project with the University of Michigan School of Environment and Sustainability, mainly to undertake a countywide survey of what people know or don't or do not know and what they think is probably important. They've put all this into the project proposal. I know there's a couple of folks here that were on that board that probably explained it a little bit further. But at this point, they're asking for permission to apply for a grant. It's due at the end of June. So we would have this back on your agenda in June that you authorize the submittal of the grant. But again, trying to get the practice down. If any group wants to apply for grants, at least they come to you before they go out and do the work to put all of it together. And at least you're prepared to say, go ahead, prepare it, and we'll take a look at it. So, so that's kind of where we are.
Commissioner Ross or Commissioner O'Leary, you want to speak to it?
Yeah, so the idea with this is kind of a follow-up. In 2000, I think it was 13, they did a survey from Leelanau Township, the energy group up there. And they found it extremely professional and helpful. This group that comes are graduate students in this School of Environment and Sustainability at U of M. And so we would like to use those people again to just get a better insight into the overall feeling that Leelanau County residents have when we talk about renewable energy going forward. And this is all in light of so many grants are going to be coming down the pipe as we implement statewide practices to become more renewable in our energy use. So we think it's just a really good time for this energy task force to make sure that we're capturing the whole totality of residents across the spectrum. So this is our attempt just to say we want to serve and we want to serve the county residents in a way that makes sense as we go forward. The process is that if we get the grant, then in September, we'll actually apply in person at U of M for our project proposal. The grant would help us look more attractive because we know what housing's like in Leelanau County. We could offer them some sort of stipend to cover their housing costs and the costs of when they're here in the county. Collecting data. All the data will become public record and will be also available to other county agencies that might need that data to support grant applications that they're going for too. So we know it'll be extremely valuable for our energy task force, but I think has multiple benefits for the county as we all become a more sustainable county and residents. Did I cover it?
I think so, and part of our goal was there are a lot of grants available. And that is money, our tax dollars, we're bringing it back into the county to add richness and awareness and knowledge here. So that has been, one of our unspoken goals was to take advantage of some of these grants. So this will be important information.
Do we want to get a motion on the table and then we can talk further? Yes, Commissioner Russ.
Move to recommend that the County Board of Commissioners authorize the Leelanau County Energy Futures Task Force to prepare a grant application to EVO Community Energy Management Grants for the U of M Seas project proposal as outlined in the May 10th, 2024 communication from Task Force Chair Joe DeForest, and to be presented for recommendation in the June 11, 2024 Board of Commissioners Executive Session and possible approval on June 18, 2024 Board of Commissioners regular meeting.
Support.
Discussion. Commissioner Retro?
This grant will not involve any county resources, no matching funds?
Nope. No, it's outlined pretty well in Joe's 2-page link to us. No county funds will be used as in accordance with our approval back in August or September last year.
Commissioner Lautner?
So what is the May 10th? I don't, what does that say? What is it?
It's a PDF attached to that email, and he wrote it on May 10th. That's just all. It's a project proposal.
I'm sorry, there.
Project description. 2 pages outline what exactly we want to do and why, when.
There was an email that I received, and that was, should have been in here. I will get that to you so you can see, but it's just an overview of what they would like to do. So I'm trying to refer back to a conversation. No, you don't have it.
I don't have it.
No, you don't. It's just an email we received, or I received from Mr. DeForest. And it's mainly saying we would like to submit, we would like permission to prepare a grant application covering all of this that you just heard, and I will make sure you see a copy of that email.
So it's just it's a survey. They want to do a survey?
Well, is the project proposal is there on the last page of your handouts. On your desk. That's what they're going to be doing.
There's more in this May 10th though.
And the May 10th is just be like a cover letter. This is a cover email. There's nothing more in the survey, in the email. I like to refer back to documents that, here's where the request came from. That's all I'm doing there, is just referring back to a certain document. But I'll make sure this gets added to this for next week.
So basically, we're adhering to a cutoff date and time. Okay.
Ready to vote?
Yes.
All those in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Hi,
Motion
I want
approved.
to read it off first. I'd like to read the whole thing first.
Okay, thank you. Motion approved 6-1. We'll move it on to next week. We now are down to item 8, and that's you.
Good. Thank you. Anyway, under the tribal grant in your packet, you have 3 agreements. You can just use them to wrap up stuff and recycle, because you've already agreed to all these. If there wasn't any boo-boos in their packet, this was the area that we did. We shouldn't have had that, and you've already approved these. The funding's already been done. This was part of the November cycle. So that's the thing that I didn't look at. But as I mentioned earlier, we currently have no applications have been received from staff to move forward with any request. But as you heard earlier today, for the historic barn, we're gonna let staff know tomorrow that they've got 48 hours to turn in any rent requests to us, so you can give consideration to it next week. So what we're asking is that at this point, we don't have any on tap, but we would still like for you to recommend to the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners to move the GTB 2% tribal grant application submissions to the regular session on May 21st, 2020, to consider any application submissions that are received yet this week. So that's basically, you may have some next week and we may not, but at least puts it on the agenda for your considerations.
So moved. Support.
I thought you heard that right.
You want to?
Did you get that, Jen?
She has a copy of this.
Bill Dyer to Ross, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, she has it, so.
Well, I'm glad we're doing that, because last cycle, we received 5 grants from the band. It doesn't make sense not to submit.
Yes.
Try to get some money.
Okay.
All those in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved, 7-0.
The next item is a summer maintenance staff. What we'd like to recommend that instead of hiring 1 part-time individual, we'd like to have 2 part-time individuals. We are not increasing the hours or the amount of money that we require. But this way we can get 2 individuals to at least cover 4 days in a week instead of 3. And one of the individuals, if I remember correctly, worked for us last year, but he can't work more than he already did. But we still like to have an extra person out there. So that one of our individuals at times is not working by himself out there in the parks when they're far out there. So we're asking, but where this is a hang up is in your accounts, in your accounts, you only have 1 part-time staff, and we just want to change that to 2 part-time staff that would work 2 days per week over the same period of time. So that's a change.
Commissioner Ross?
Move to recommend that the County Board of Commissioners approve the proposal as presented, increasing the Parks and Recreation authorized staffing level to 3 positions while remaining within the current budgeted hours of service.
Support. Any discussion? All those in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved 7-0.
The next one is last month, you did approve the purchase of some wood mulch. But as we got ready to undertake the work, we realized that it was going to be a lot more effort than what we thought. We didn't think it was having 2.5 people out there digging a pit around playground equipment a foot deep and doing the work. So we went back out and we've gotten a price from True North Landscaping, a local firm, to come in. They're going to provide us with a better quality of wood chip to go around the playground equipment at the park, and also to be able to put it into place. This is not a capital project, nor do I consider it professional service. This is a maintenance issue, thing that we have to deal with. Regardless, it's still over the administrator's spending a limit, so it has to come to you for approval. And I would like to recommend that we can get this done. If you do this on a 7-0 vote, move forward, I'm going to feel like that you are going to approve this in a week on the consent counter. But I'd like to get True North moving sooner rather than later, because it is, I like to hopefully get this work done before the park really gets busy. And it is a safety item that has been identified to you and that I've seen. So I hope you will agree to approve this agreement.
Commissioner Kramer.
Move to recommend that the County Board of Commissioners authorize board chairs to execute an agreement with True North Landscaping in the amount not to exceed $14,315,000 for work to be performed at Miles Kimberly Park per proposal dated April 19th, 2024. And furthermore, approve a contingency of $1,500 for said project to be utilized by the county administrator if so needed.
And I hope it's not needed, but.
Support. All right. Commissioner Rose?
And this is coming out of our parks budget, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Out of
that
Parks
means-
budget.
Okay.
Is that?
All those in support of the motion?
That doesn't need to be part of the motion. No.
Well,
So
I don't-
had this, oh, I'm sorry, Doug, I have a question.
Well, I said, Commissioner Kramer, and I had the exact same question. Does that motion need to specify that comes out of the parks?
It should.
Do you want me to add that?
Yeah, you can add that.
Okay, add that.
You got that, Jen?
I don't know the number.
Come out of Parks and Recreation.
Yeah, and he said maintenance, so you want another 775, so I'll put that in there.
Thank you.
Commissioner Leonard?
This is, so did this go to the Parks and Recreation Board?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, they are very much.
For the 14,000?
I don't
The wood
recall.
chips did,
I
we
know,
were talking 5 or 6, correct?
yeah, that's correct, but we did. I probably mentioned it to him, but I can't remember if I did it.
I think we did, and we're gonna utilize, if we don't know about the grant, we haven't heard. right?
Yeah, we still haven't heard about the grant. I mean, but we'll get some of that back hopefully, but.
But I,
Yes, that was approved by the
This-
commission.
this
for
was-
14,000,
Right.
to 14,000 of our budget went through Parks and Recreation.
I don't know.
And then Ms. Lautner, I'm gonna say this is in your all's lap. It's not in the Parks and Rec, it's yours.
Parks and Recreation should make their recommendations for their budget, and I just don't remember for sure if we went up to 14,000.
Parks and Recreation do know that there's a safety issue at this park and it needs to get done. And I'm saying this falls responsibility on this board. What if they recommend not doing it? You still, the responsibility and liability rests with you, nobody else, this body.
Okay, but we have,
I know you do, but this is a maintenance and they know it, and they're aware of it. And so that's where we are.
if I may,
You may.
thank you. Okay, we were asking many of these questions a month ago, Mr. Lewis, when you weren't here.
Yeah.
And when this all began about going back to the beginning, following all the proper policies and procedures so that we wouldn't be here with a motion in front of us with us overriding Parks and Recreation for more dollars than they may or may not have. So obviously, brings us to the other part of if County Board of Commissioners is going to honor the funds for last year's unspent dollars. I have absolutely no problem if we're going to do that, but I don't think we've formally done that yet. And I think it's really important that we do, and then we have no problem moving forward. But also, if I may continue, this didn't go out for bid either then, and it's over the amount.
It did.
Not for the excavating. The excavating went out for bid?
No, this is all one
Okay, I
package.
did not think the excavation went out for bid. So we're going with we're going a different route than what went past Parks and Recreation and past the board. I just want to know how we're doing this is all.
Okay.
So the reason I'm asking.
Your current policy says you only go out for bid. Your current only go out if it's a capital project or what was the other, professional services. This is neither one. This is maintenance.
This isn't professional services.
I call it maintenance. You have to get it done,
Okay.
you know. And that's my interpretation. Professional maintenance is when you hire engineers, you hire attorneys, you hire surveyors, things such as that. That's professional services. Maintenance is a different program.
Commissioner
From
Rexroth,
from my experience in life.
Commissioner Rexroth, and then Commissioner Russ.
I empathize with Commissioner Lautner's objections about following
And I
form
agree
and
with
function. And I also object to the idea that just because you would call it maintenance, you could do $1 million no bid
No, I
contract as you term it, so.
No, I can't.
So,
No, I can't. Your policy says that your administrator cannot spend more than $10,000.
Yeah.
Period. You all have to make that decision.
so this is more than,
This is 14.
this is 14.
I know. That's why it's here before you.
Commissioner Russ.
So April 3rd of minutes from the Parks and Recreation Committee meeting, it was a 6-1 vote with 3 people absent. It was a motion by me to recommend to the board that we hire Deering's to deliver the chips for $6,730.50, with the understanding that our staff was gonna do the installation. That was decided not practical with Scott Bradley leaving the position. We have new people coming on and the busy season. So even the motion carried with that cost, with the understanding the other would be covered by county in-house maintenance staff. So that's just the way it stands legally here on the page in front of me, so.
And this has to be dug out 1 foot.
Yeah.
We don't have that equipment.
Yeah, that's the point we tried to make in April.
Yeah, I know.
So now it's May, and now we feel like we have to rush this through, forget policy, forget
Well,
procedure, forget taking this to parts. I'm just
we-
want to understand how we're doing business. in
Are we
Leelanau.
willing to-
I think I got it.
Are we willing to decide to move forward with the project, but can next week determine what happens with the excess money left in the Parks and Recreation and how we're paying for it?
That'd be great.
Does that meet with your approval for the motion? Jen, you understand that?
I'm thinking, so you want to add a late addition to Tuesday to have Kathy recap for you what wasn't spent in 2023 Parks and Recs, so that you can make a budget amendment to move that forward to 24?
Yes. I can do that.
Yes.
Okay, then.
I would feel better.
That's impressive.
Are we okay with that? You made the motion, are you okay with that?
I didn't.
Oh, Jamie, you're okay with that?
Yeah, I'm good.
All those in support of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It was kind of clumsy, but motion approved 7-0. Thank you.
Scott's way, yes.
He's gonna move this through and get it going.
Yes, he is.
Gonna get her done.
Okay, I just want to make sure though, when you ask me that, you want Jamie's to still state the authorization for him to go forward, but to include that next Tuesday night, you'll do a late edition request? I guess now I'm confused.
The late addition request on how to review and maybe make recommendations or whatever we want to talk about.
Okay,
Of
so
the unused surplus from last year.
Okay, so is Jamie's recommendation for him to proceed with this Miles Kimberly proposal on the, is that, so you just voted on?
Yeah.
And then Richard's going to add a late edition request for all that good stuff that I said. Okay,
Right.
I just want to make sure.
And this is all coming out of the Parks
Okay.
and Recreation budget.
Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
We now have, you've done a lot of work on the finance department.
Okay, I saved myself having to repeat in 2 separate documents. I have 1 memo in here to cover 2 items. But we'll cover the first item, which is you're getting ready to go into a session after lunch that regards your next county administrator, CFO, Chief Finance Officer. And part of this is that we need to get the finance department set up. You really don't have a finance department set up you're functioning as one, but you really don't have one. So what we're recommending to you is that there's several actions that you wanted to create such a department. What we're recommending is that you now authorize the creation of a finance department and eliminate the accounting department. That's in your budget. The title of the department would be Finance and Accounting Department. Next is that we're also asking that on your brief employee master list for the Finance and Accounting Department, you would consider authorizing the following staffing levels. One would be, of course, the finance director. Two would be the assistant finance director. And one thing I do want to point out, we are not recommending we're recommending the position be retained of the assistant finance director, but it'll be up to the next county administrator what they want to do with that position. We're not asking to move forward in any way to fill that position. Next, we're recommending instead of having one full-time equivalent of an account clerk, that we should have two clerks there. There's enough work to keep everybody busy in that department, but we don't need to bring anybody up any further. Another thing is on this position, and I've covered that part of it. The next thing would be on June 1st of 2024, after the, or thereabouts, after the month is that any wages and benefit funds that were in the fiscal year within the Board of Commissioners Department for Finance Director, because that's where that position is now under, anything left over for the remainder 7 months, just move over to the Finance and Accounting Department. So it's money just being transferred from one department to another department, because that's where all the wages and benefits are being done. And then last but not least, I'm asking that you rescind the action that the BOC took on November 1st, which stated that the interim finance director would be reporting directly to the BOC. I think we're working pretty well together. You know, whatever she tells me, I just do. So it's fine. Put all that into a motion. Once again, just like I did on the other one, I'm referring to a particular memo that was sent to you. So that's part of the record, how we came to that item. I think most of those things that I've looked at in here are under pages 220, which is I'm only rescinding that one particular item of the action that you took. I am not changing anything as it relates to the interim finance director, that you've already made that decision, that the next county administrator will make that call of who they want for a finance director. So I'm not making any recommendations on that change. And I try to point out in your staffing levels where those kind of issues on page 221 and 222, where the finance director was located and where it needs to be moved to. So that gets your stage set for your next administrator CFO. There may be other changes that when that individual gets on board may come to you, but at least this sets the stage that you do have a finance and accounting department. Right now you don't. So that was part of your the finance committee's recommendation to get that created by June of this year. So that's the easy part. So
before we put a motion on the floor, Kathy, do you want to come up to the table and I know you've had conversation with Richard about this. Do you want to add anything to what Richard said?
No, I can say that, yes, we have dialogue and we're not always going to agree, but we discuss professionally and we are working well together. And I know it is the board's preference that you don't have two direct reports. So I'm amicable to the recommendation.
Could we get a motion and then we can discuss? Commissioner Laundrie?
Well, before we make a motion, I have really no issue with the first half of this recommendation, but I'm not yet prepared to rescind the other action. Presently, I like finance reporting to the full board. I just think that is a super important piece of this, especially to leave in until after we select our administrator CFO.
Commissioner Algar?
I would move to recommend that the County Board of Commissioners authorize the creation of the Finance and Accounting Department. Approve the authorizing of staffing levels, including the addition of 1 account clerk. Transfer of unspent finance director wages benefits from the county commission department to the finance and accounting department, and rescind November 11, 2023 action of the interim finance director reporting to the county commission as recommended in the May 3, 2024 memorandum from the interim county administrator. And I'm
Support.
And I guess I would say, I think it makes sense for the interim finance director to report to our interim administrator because they are here every day and we aren't. And when they have things, when our interim finance director has something to resolve, I think it's important that there's someone on site who's knowledgeable and on top of what's going on and available to you.
Commissioner Rexroth, did I want
I have a question on page 220, which is the original recommendations that the board adopted that kind of get us where we are. There's a red mark rescind pointing to the parenthetical line. I assume that rescind is only pointing to that or
Only to that.
and so I'm so confused by that because it still is, I think, this board's intent not to not create a CFO position. We've agreed to create an administrator / CFO position. The intent at that point was that we didn't want a CFO directly reporting long-term to the board. So I don't know that it's necessary to rescind that because we're not going against that recommendation anyway.
But your interim finance director is reporting to you. All I'm doing is that's what this says. That's what you adopted and you approved.
I got that, but the exact thing you're pointing at and rescinding doesn't have anything to do with that.
Yeah, it does.
Is it the direction of the arrow?
Yes.
To the
rest of
parenthetical?
arrow says that name is interim finance reporting directly to the BOC.
It's,
I'm removing all of that.
but in the parentheticals is what,
Oh, it's pointing right at the parenthetical, so that's.
Well,
where I
I'm
got
just
15,
pointing
so-
that whole thing, but I mean, it's gonna,
Okay.
yeah, it's pointing at that whole thing. It's one.
Okay.
Right.
Point number one.
Yeah, it just, I mean, it,
Okay, point number one.
if you look at it.
I understand. Yeah. Okay. Should have put a bracket around the whole thing.
Yes.
any,
So that's your intent.
Any discussion?
Item number 1 is it. Okay.
I might, if I could just address perhaps reporting directly to the county administrator or the interim county administrator or the administrator CFO. You know, the finance director has a lot of responsibility to make sure that your board rules are upheld and that the accounting standards are in accordance with the state of Michigan guidelines. The ability to have good dialogue between those two positions and honest dialogue and have sometimes controversial dialogue, it is important. I can tell you, it does depend on who you have in those seats. And I can tell you that if I felt compromised, I would come to you and tell you that I feel compromised.
If it's working well, I mean, it is.
Any department head should be able to do that, so.
Yeah, that's where we're at.
Commissioner Rexroth,
Not to parse words, but again, looking at that, if we rescind all of number 1, that means we rescind naming Catherine Hartsfield as interim finance director.
What
Well,
you're
that's-
rescinding is reporting directly to the BOC.
So I want to make sure that's clear
That's all you're doing.
because again, nothing says exactly what that is going on based on the documents. So,
Is the reporting.
Okay.
Is the reporting required.
so the only thing we're rescinding is that second half of that sentence.
That is correct.
Okay, and is that a clear understanding of this?
Yep.
Okay, all right.
when I read this and I heard that Kathy and Richard had talked about this, it takes us one step further to where we said we wanted to end up. It creates a department. And I like it that the two people responsible for making recommendations to us are talking before they get to the board. So I think this is progress.
I had both Kathy and the clerk reviewed everything that I wrote. So there you go.
Any other?
Well, I would be 100% on board if Mr. Lewis were going to remain as our administrator and things are going along quite well. But I like this process presently. I always feel that our finances are our number one. I mean, that is what we are statutorily required to do and look after. And so having our finance director report to us is, I think it's worked very well, and it has done very well, and it's also given some level of protection to our interim finance director. We have not yet selected our finance director, so I kind of find it disturbing how we seem to pick and choose around here. So we say, well, we're not going to name a finance director, well, until after we pick our administrative CFO. And yet we're already saying, well, what we're going to do is transfer it all under this person we have not yet selected. And then I hear, well, we should, we can't do that until we put it out for bid. And put out for RFPs for others for this position. And yet then we have other department heads in this county where we said, well, even though you were hired as something, we're going to move you up and we're not going to put it out for RFPs. And it's just very disturbing because it's picking and choosing, and it's not following policy, it's not following procedure, and things are working. And so this, I think we should pick our administrator CFO. And then at that point,
I'm sorry.
And at that point, then this could be a very easy transfer.
Any other question? Yes.
I'm just gonna say, I think it is a step in the right direction. It's part of what the intent of this committee, even the finance committee said, we do not want to direct reports long-term. Not saying that hasn't worked. Kathy's done an admirable job doing it. But I think this actually moves us a step closer to getting this done. And the administrator, when we get him, will come into at least a structure that has been set up and is working. So I will support this, assuming that my comments about what exactly has been rescinded is accurate. So
just the reporting.
Yeah. Anything else?
Probably.
All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion approved 6-1. If this is approved on next Tuesday night, I would like to bring to our June meeting a discussion of whether we want to maintain or eliminate having a finance and personnel committee. I know there's been concern on the board on that. And part of the reason we had the finance committee is we had a direct report. So I think on the June agenda, I will propose anyway that we have discussion about whether we want to maintain the two committees that we established or work both those issues as a board as a whole. So that'll be on the agenda. Richard.
Okay. All right, the next one dealt with your budget rules and listing last month about going out for bids, when you should go out for bids and not go out for bids. Scott, we're looking at of your current budget rules that were put into effect. Where it started to get confusing with me that like under point number 3, you see the changes that are being recommended here, but point number 3, where your county administrator had service contracts up to $10,000, but then you get down to how they're going to administer some of this. This could be a little bit cumbersome. What I tried to do is try to clean it up a little bit, try to honor what you want to make sure happens, and that you are getting some quotes, some viable quotes that administrators should be looking at as you move forward. The first thing I did is like under where it says course, I said I'm assuming that the finance and accounting department will be created. Also, the county administrator, chief financial officer, that's the new title that you're going to have for this particular area, which after that, we won't use the whole thing at new CFO. This, why I understand why you put interim in there at the time. This is assuming, you know, I didn't see anywhere in there where you changed everything to say interim county administrator to all this. So it doesn't make a difference where we're interim or we're full-time. The finance director, whether it's interim or on, that has been assigned, is the same finance director. So I just took all that out. I made some other changes again. I wanted to make sure that it was quite clear that no funds are, what I did in number 6 is take a long sentence and turn it into 2 sentences. I said that no funds are to be appropriated for any position employed not on the authorized staff level. It's not in there, that's part of what you do. Where I changed everything, it starts in number 14. And I kind of, I'm going to be honest with you, I copied what Grand Traverse County has done, talked to Dean Bott about it quite a bit, about how they did that. And where the confusion came in for me was the $5,000 limit for going out for bids. And what you're doing is, I said it, you're gumming up the works a little bit because it takes time to put out a bid for over $5,000. So what I did is I broke it down into a table of what could happen. So any purchase that goes up to $999, a department could go out and can get a job done, get the receipt, and turn it in, and it'll be paid. Anywhere from $1,000 up to $4,499.99. We want to get 3 verbal quotes. In other words, you got to go out and get 3 individuals or 3 firms to give you a good solid quote. And then of course, we want to take the best evaluated quote. Part of that evaluation is how fast can you get the material to us? If it's going to take you 3 weeks versus 2 weeks, it's a $100 difference. Well, you pay the $100 difference, but that's an evaluation that is made. Anywhere from $4,000 to $500 to $9,999.99. We have to have 3 written quotes, formal written quotes that that we're going to have to use for either a contract, and also everything has to have been budgeted. You just can't walk in and say, oh, we're just going to do this because we want. If it's not already in your budget, you can't do it. That has to come back to this body. Should always come back to this body in order to be able to make sure this is what you want done and make your budget adjustments beforehand. Also, anything above $10,000, we're going to have as a competitive bid, no matter what, and a minimum of 3 bids is encouraged. This is the same language that you have in your current agreement. I just put it here. Also, I wanted to point out that for the 3 written quotes, if the administrator CFO felt this is one of those that may raise some eyebrows or some questions, I'm going to take this to the board. It doesn't prevent that administrator to bring it to the board for their approval to do so. I changed it again, instead of going over $5,000. But one thing I did add is that competitive bidding may be waived by the county board by an affirmative for the purchase, or but what I wanted to do is to put in there that this also includes not only capital projects or professional services, but it's anything that's going to be over $10,000. You got to get 3 bids. Now we're talking something different, unless that bid is going to be waived. And that's where I put in there also underneath there under 15. I don't want to wait till it comes to the meeting here first, and then we want you to waive that, and we're handing you a bid or a quote. You've got to give that permission before your administrator or your departments go out and seek that bid, or that. We need to make, your staff needs to make a good, reasonable argument why we should not be doing a competitive bid. And if we haven't, then we got to go out and do, and you agree with that, that's great. But we want to do that before we go out and ask for bids. That way we're not wasting a vendor's time or anybody else if we're not sure. But you can see under 15 of how I wrote that out. Because if we can't give you a good reasoning, then we should be going out for bids. And there may be a good reason, time or the expertise or whatever it may be. But we're saying anything over 10,000, not just 2 areas, and that includes Mr. Rex Road maintenance. Okay, so you will know for the future. So,
We just did that,
huh?
which is what we just did.
Huh?
We just did that.
You just did for maintenance. But I did it because, one, I don't have permission to spend more than $10,000. When I say I, the county administrator, under your rules right now, and that didn't change. I'm not changing any of that. Cannot go over $10,000, period. Now, your next administrator and CFO may request it a little higher. That's a different decision. I didn't want to change the levels. I just changed when we're gonna go for bids and also put more requirements on staff to get quotes, so we know what we're getting and why we're getting it. And everything has to be budgeted. If it's not in the budget, they gotta come and ask you first. So that's kind of where we are. It's like, I would not go out. I know there's some talk about playground equipment at a certain park. I'm not gonna go out and put out a sealed bid until we have plans, you've seen it. You gotta see, because you really haven't got a full cost for that yet. Get some estimates. That's how I would foresee this being a process.
So I think I guess the difference for me is that the interpretation of professional services.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to hire hop excavating, that to me is a professional service. That's what they do. They're
Well,
professionals at it.
I understand that, ma'am. I'm just telling you from
So
my,
I guess I just want to make
from
sure.
my
I'm saying that
administrative
right now,
background, professional services has always been considered hiring attorneys or engineers or things that you could not do, but it's a difference of definition. I'm just leaving it, anything over $10,000. I don't care what it is. I don't care what it is.
Mr. Rick.
So this looks like all good ideas. I mean, I appreciate all the hard work here. I mean, there's quite a bit here, and I don't know how everyone else feels. I don't know if the timing is crucial, whether we have to. I mean, I'd like a little more time to think through the things I'm looking at. If it's not considered like a timing essential thing that you feel is an emergency, but I'm open to this board's.
It's up to you. I mean, all I can do is give you a recommendation.
Yeah, I mean, it on the face of it, it looks really good. I just would like a little more time to chew on it.
You got a week.
Like how much?
Well, I would as well, because
Well, I mean, if we, I
up to you.
guess we're not say put it as part of the consent agenda then.
Well, I wouldn't
Or
put
we
it-
can remove it, I guess, or whatever, but.
Move it forward to.
I would make a motion to move it forward.
But I would not put it on the consent agenda because I want you guys to talk about it some more.
Right, I guess that's what I'm.
Please.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. peacefully.
Well, I think we
We
wanna
have a
move it.
second.
Yes, second.
Yes, Melinda.
Well, if we move this forward and approve it next week, then I would wonder who after next Tuesday would be responsible for assuring all the transfers, expenditures and excess of the approved department budgets and made only after approval by the board of commissioners, et cetera. And who shall be responsible for assuring the departmental budgets are charged for salaries and wages according to the adopted budget?
Your county administrator.
You will be.
I am held accountable for all of this.
You're going to do all that.
I mean, I'm held accountable for it all. Even the goof ups that's in this packet, I'm held accountable for it all.
So it doesn't say that though.
That's, I think that's in the job description.
Okay.
It's been moved and seconded that we move this forward to next week's agenda. All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, if you don't, just make sure it's not on the consent calendar, please. Yeah, right.
It will be.
Okay. No, it will not be on the consent, right.
And if you have questions or concerns in advance,
please.
share them with Richard.
Throw them at me. I mean, I'm gonna get the brief for the next couple of days. So anything you want. There you go.
And if I could just interject on that, your budget rules are set every year when you adopt your budget for the next year. So we're going to start budget here pretty soon. Then we get to something you can recommend for adoption for 2025. You also will then adopt your budget rules for 2025. You also do your Appropriations Act for 2025. So if it needs tweaking, you have opportunity to tweak.
It's a living document.
It's a living document.
But if you notice, I put in here a date that these are being amended as of May the 21st, if you adopt this. But again, as part of your process and your budgeting process in early 25, you'll revisit this. But that time, your county administrator, CFO will be on board, and they may have some different recommendations. But again, this sets the foundation to move this way. Things may have to change or not change, but at least it's going in a different direction. And I'm hoping that some of the things that you all find here that we continue moving on, but also provide that accountability. Because when you look at the claims every month, it's your right, and it's your duty to ask questions. And if we can't document something, shame on us. I'm just gonna say it.
Thank you. Well, the next item, I'm glad the next item's on the agenda. We, if you drove from my area in the county today, you had a hard time getting to work because there's so many point broadband construction vehicles. There's a lot of progress, but thanks to Richard, Chris, our attorney, Kathy, we've got, I think, good news.
We got good news, and your packet is with the draft of the agreement that was discussed. Again, you've heard this before, that things that we talked about last month, that what we thought was going to be accomplished, and that was that by the end of this calendar year, 90% of the unserved homes as identified in attachment A are going to be completed by point broadband. 96 point. A decimal here and the decimal there. Anyhow, then the rest of us will be completed by August of 2025, which is in plenty of time. Did they use ARPA funds for this?
Yes.
Okay, so because we need to have everything spent by that, well before then, by 26. So this will be completed. One thing that we did get included is that we wanted a performance bond. They have agreed to that performance bond. Once you've approved this and it's signed, then they have 30 days to get that performance bond to us. It's in the amount of $3,200,000, which gives us a little bit more teeth to exercise in case they don't complete as said on time. The other one that got added that we had to really think about was a fourth primary point that dealt with the gaining of private easements. I mean, we don't have private easement right now. All the work they're doing is on county right of way or on public right of way. They're moving for that. Going through some of the HOAs or some of those neighborhoods, they may not be able to acquire those particular easements from the individual, but they can't go down there if they don't have an easement. So what we've written in here is, what they're seeking is that if they can't get those easements and they've used their best efforts, then they're just going to pass they're just going to pass. Now they can come back later, but they're going to pass. But the question that was raised was, well, how are they going to do that? And points A, B, and C are more or less the outline how to do that. If they haven't accomplished that, they need to come to this county board and through its administrator and consultant, prove to us that they've used their best efforts to acquire the private easements and it failed. What I'm saying is, they'll come to us, then the county, the administrator and the consultant will bring it to you and say, they couldn't do it, we couldn't get it, and so that's where we were. We would then investigate. If we're not in agreement with them, then we would use further efforts to be undertaken, or we would tell them, you got to try for 30 more days to see what happens. If they still haven't got it, then they're going to come back to this county board to say, what can you do to help us? The main thing you're going to do is make sure you send an official letter to these folks saying, if you don't sign up, you're not going to get it. I don't think you're all going to be in a mode that you're going to use condemnation. I wouldn't recommend that because that usually leaves a bad taste in everybody's mouth. So, but we can send a strong letter to those property owners and say, look, we're here, we're funding it. It's no cost to you unless you don't want the service. No one's requiring you to take the service. But it's a letter say, if you don't do this, they're going to go by, and later on it's going to cost you more money. Because once we're done, we're done. So that's what we're gonna do. If they can't get it passed, but there's gonna be some review, and you will probably, hopefully, that won't happen, but it'll come back to you to take some action. So that's the main thing that got changed. That's the main thing that got added, but I think it's a fair concern that they have. Because I understand when they get to go around down in Elmwood and down there, the heavy populated area, that some of those sections may not have any public right of way that they can utilize, or it's all private. So it makes a concern on their part, which is a fair concern. They can't get there if they're not allowed to be there, as we can guess. They have signed it. We got that notice late Friday that they have signed it. I sent that to you last night. So they have signed the agreement. And so hopefully we'll be willing to move this forward for official approval at the meeting next Tuesday night.
Commissioner Rushroad.
I move to recommend that the County Board of Commissioners. Blank right then, sorry. I lost the page. Yeah, in the middle of the. Approve and authorize the county chair to execute amendment number 3 to the fiber optic broadband network construction agreement.
Support.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Just another point of good news, as I understand it, the second fiber line that Point will be using to come into our county is now in place. So we've got the redundancy, which has been causing a lot of the problems up until this point. So hopefully that's all taken care of now.
I think, could I just interject, because we do get questioned about this project, about how many subscribers. We won't know that information because the subscribers aren't subscribing to Leelanau County, they're subscribing to Point Broadband. Broadband, we are providing the utility for our people. It's up to them to enter into a contract with Point Broadband. If you would like to know how many subscribers there are, that would be a question to Point Broadband. I don't know as a private company if they would give that up, but that is not information that we are privy to.
That's correct.
And it's a moving number. I wanted to compliment Chris Scheer. He has worked very hard, very diligently, and he's the reason I think we got this performance bond contract through with a lot of support from Richard and Kathy as well.
It is, another point is that everything may be in place, but it may be, they're gonna be taking off, as, as other providers may come through or whatever. Who knows how many they're gonna have, but they're in it. And I know I made a comment, when it comes down to the amount of money that's being spent, they got 3 times the amount of money than what the county has put in. So there's a major investment on their part, which I think the stockholders would like to have a return on sooner rather than later. So,
Yeah, I believe, yeah.
Yes.
There, oh, I was just gonna say, oh, it's okay. I think that their investment in the county is somewhere north of $17 million.
Yes.
And we're a partner in that investment up to our $5 million contract. So I believe it's $17 million investment to provide availability.
And I understand the take rate has been high. I don't know the exact numbers, but they have said that the take rate has been higher than they had hoped. But we'll find that out.
All those in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved, 7-0. Commissioner Algar.
I just have to make a statement that I am very, very glad that there are people in other parts of the county who are accessing broadband and our work is not done. We still have people in the Southwest, in my district and part of Commissioner Lautner's, that still have nothing. We're working hard on getting Charter to move. They're not as cooperative as Point has been.
Thank you.
And I anticipate our support of that as a board. And I anticipate our support of that as a board when we finally achieve that. Thank you.
Okay, we're now down to Kathy for review of financials.
Any invoice questions?
Commissioner Lund?
I just had the one on the solenoids for the doors. What was that first page?
I'm not, I can be mechanical, but I believe it has to do with the electronic door locks.
Yeah,
Is that what a
solenoid
solenoid is for?
It says 10 though. Is that all the key locks on, are there?
There'd be a lot more than 10.
Well, there's one, oh, there's a name,
Who's-
one here.
Do
They're
you
on
remember the
stairwells.
vendor?
Ellen,
Commissioner?
Ellen. Supply?
Allen Supply.
Do they all wear out or is this just, do they have to be upgraded? What was the deal with those?
It does say solenoids for door locks at the government center. There's 10 of them.
3, 4, 5, 6. Well, there's more than 3, 4, 5, 6.
It's not a repair and maintenance.
7, 8.
It is.
So it must be wear and tear on, my guess is wear and tear.
It could
Our
be.
discussion upstairs, that's what they said, that's that mechanism that makes that door lock when used. So I'm guessing.
We
Yeah,
can
there
get-
could be a couple of
we'll
them.
get that for you. We'll find out.
Yeah,
Get more
what
details
doors?
of that.
I'm just curious whether it's,
Anything else?
I think that was the only thing I had.
It could be a revolving maintenance process,
Yeah.
you know, since they're that expensive, you know, do 10 this year, do 10 next year. I don't know. I'll find out from Jerry.
Okay.
Thank you, Kathy.
Sure. Any other invoices?
I believe so.
Okay.
Any special reports by staff, commissioners, or affiliated agencies? That takes us down to our second public comment opportunity. You have 5 minutes to speak to us about anything that you think we ought to hear. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Tubbs.
Harry Steffens, I'm Leland Township. Thanks for letting me go first. I got someplace to go. But anyway, I got a comment, a demand that I want to make and a suggestion. So I want to comment one more time on that barn situation. You've got I think I heard somebody say that Parks and Recs is short of funds. And now you got a barn here that's owned by Parks and Recs that could be rented out for events. And I happen to know there's a big demand in the county for events because my daughter was looking for a wedding venue and the cheapest place we could find was the VFW. And I'm a member there, so member price for the VFW is $1,000. So I know that would be a good revenue maker. So why not rent out that barn and raise revenue for Parks and Recs? Makes sense to me. So anyway, my demand, and I've been talking to you for what, 3 years now about these darn voting machines. So I'm not asking you anymore. I'm telling you, you guys work for me. I'm a taxpayer. You work for the taxpayers. And I'm demanding that you stop paying the Dominion money for that rigged machine. So now my suggestion, why not take a little bit of that money that you saved by not paying it to Dominion and build a bathroom for the barn? So anyway, thank you guys.
Thank you. One clarification. Parks and Rec doesn't own anything. The county owns it. Just let you know.
Okay, well, however you work it out. Thanks.
No,
guys.
I mean, just, thank you, Mr. Stephens.
Yes. Steve, and then you.
I'm sad to learn that our county is the high deficiency level of entertainment services for the public to enjoy. A question of semantics, create and establish. In my mind, when you create something, you use magic and you use magicians. Establish means you've done something productive. And that leads me to something that this commission is going ahead with, but cannot proceed until they apologize to the people for what they have done in the past. But I want to just touch base on our business in 1975. In our business, we had always had a automatic procedure with a purchase order that demanded a continuing guarantee and a certificate of insurance. So mind you, this is 50 years ago. The county commission should have corrected but failed. It failed in its handling of the prior fiasco, that includes the administrator, to properly serve the people and properly exercising their fiduciary obligation. That was the clerk loading decision of May 11, 2021, removing immediately the finance and human resources from the clerk's office. It was done without any kind of plan at all, nothing, just a blank late edition statement with no report of need, necessity, justification, or benefit. And tragically, never, ever any conversation with the clerk about it. A sad saga of a majority of commissioners, in my mind, unfit to serve in public office. An example, a perfect example, what usually happens with public officials is emoting. We're emoting, trying to do things rather than using dispassionate thinking. Dispassionate thinking has risks. It causes one to evaluate. Emoting does not. This tragedy has resulted in hundreds of thousands of dollars of taxpayers' money being wasted. And it's continuing, it's going to continue on the way that you are set in motion with your administrator and this whole board. What a legacy. What a legacy the past commission and this commission is going to leave. To do things, this specific issue only, in the most unorganized, costly manner possible. I urge you all, as you discuss this issue further, you must first make an apology to the clerk and our staff and the taxpayers, because they're bearing the burden. And we're going to have a higher tax than we should have because of all the events that transpired. This issue, this clerk loading issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
First of all, I'm very proud of Steve and his wife to sit here all the time and enjoy these meetings. I'm very proud of them. Thank you. My name is Scott Richards, Green Lake Township. I'm here on behalf of my Leelanau County Patriot friends. First of all, I'm a Christian. Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing to you, my Lord, my rock, my Redeemer. That's Psalms 19:14. My favorite, though, is 1 Timothy 1:5. The goal of this command is love, which comes from a pure heart, a good conscience, and a sincere faith. Why? Because God is love. It says in 1 John 4:8. Second, pure in heart is in Matthew 5:8. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. I want to see God someday. I can't wait. Second, sincere faith is because without faith, it's impossible to please God. Pastor Ralph Rebrandt, I'm working with him. He says there's 85 million Christians supposedly in America, but only 44 million are registered to vote. I'd like to know where the other 40 million voters are. So that's against my church. These people in the church need to get out of the pew and get engaged in government, because government was instituted by God for righteous people to govern themselves. This picture was taken at Woodmere Library. And I went there to catch Betsy Coffea because I was working on a recall to get rid of Betsy Coffea. Actually, I caught a couple other people I wasn't expecting to catch there, but I did. Now, something about Arabs and Muslims. Pro-Palestinian people are held captive by their own people called Hamas. Hamas is controlled by Iran. Women over there have no rights. I've been in Arabic countries. You should go there and stay there a while and observe them. They have no rights. These children are not taught God. Their God is Allah, a different religion, because they can justify doing what they do to people. That's how they do it. People like to justify themselves. They've been justifying themselves ever since Garden of Eden, when Adam blamed Eve and Eve blamed the snake. So people love to justify themselves, but we can't justify ourselves. We only have one justifier, and that's Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Bill, as long as you're there, you can be right there.
Sure. Bill Wiesner, Elmwood Township. One person, one ballot, one vote, one day. It's the only way we're gonna have fair elections again. No fraud. And just to say a little bit more about that, Dr. Frank was here. It was very good. He was in, spoke to a lot of people, well, people in all 5 counties, and 4 of the counties had groups. The 5th one is going to reschedule him for a group meeting, but he showed we're talking about elections. He showed a 2,000 person precinct somewhere. I don't know exactly where it was, but they went out to the hardware store and they bought their voting machines. It was a clothesline, 100 clothespins, and I don't know what else, a few other things. And they set up on a table, 6 on one side, 2 on the other side. And within 3 hours, they counted the ballots for that 2,000 person precinct. And the cost was less than $50 for the materials. They used the clothespins, 1 person election officials on either end. They put the clothespins in the box, and when there's 100 of them there, they take a short break, they put the clothespins on the other side, and they start. And if everybody matches with those 100 ballots, they're done. What, are we crazy using these black box machines? Not one clerk in the country really knows what's going on inside of those. This is comments from Keith, public comments, and he was referring to some of the comments some of us on the side were concerned about the elections. So I'm just going to comment on them a little bit. And another thing, the early voting, you say it's to help disenfranchise people? No, actually, it enables people, a loss of chain of custody and fraud to come in. No, that's why it has to be 1 person, 1 ballot, 1 vote, 1 day, except for the rare exceptions. And the cost is much lower with just doing it the old-fashioned way. And Keith was mentioning these 8 expert Republicans. And I mentioned, just a reminder, one of the men said Colorado should be able to take Trump right off the ballot. He's so terrible. And but 8 or 9 Supreme Court justices said no about that. And I would argue with Keith or any of the people on the other side, watch the video, let my people go. It's on Rumble, it's on other spots, but Rumble, it's real easy. And they make 15 points that they say the elections are secure. Knock down those. He said, I disagreed with the movie. Well, tell me, how are there arguments showing that they're susceptible to fraud. How are they false? Okay, you've listed this, explain that. And, right, and, okay. And several Trump attorneys have faced censure, loss of license and practice, fines, and possible jail time for pursuing these fraudulent cases. How much lawfare was going on after the 2016 election? None. I didn't hear of any. Last it was occurred was in the 1800s. And then after the 2020 election, all of a sudden, anybody who has the audacity to question these elections is fraudulent and should be sued and lose their license. Come on. The fraudulent part is on those who are saying that's wrong to question the government. We're supposed to be able to question the government. And on the second page, he says, without any proof, look at the New Jersey. What happened in New Jersey just this last week? Trump's all tied up in the trial. He should be out campaigning, but yet he drew 80 to 100,000 people there to listen to him. Are those people crazy? Are those people not making sense? Do they not have evidence? They see the evidence. The evidence overwhelmingly shows the fraud in the system, the cast vote records, the correlation factors that are way out of line, 0.997 for the counties in Michigan, the covered up windows in Detroit, 160,000 votes that Jocelyn Benson was ordered to give. And she said, I'll give you, but it's going to take 2 years. And then the court case was dismissed. Please consider this. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Todd Spinnick in Leelanau Township. Can you people in the back hear me okay?
Speak up, please.
Is it a matter of speak up, or is there a possibility to, someone back in the back row, and I realize it's the back row, said, hey, Don, ask them if they can turn the volume up, because some people can't be heard. Some speakers can be heard because they've got a good loud voice. I could probably be heard without the speaker if I wanted to. My choir director said, from the diaphragm, Don. So that's just.
I hear you.
Okay. I have a suggestion on when you want to change an item or get rid of an item in a document, rather than the word rescind in the margin with an arrow pointing at, we're not sure what it's pointing at. Do a thin red line through what you want to get rid of, and then say, okay, people, in this existing document that we have, I propose that we get rid of everything with a red line and then add what's in bold. Just a suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Yes.
Wasn't planning on this, just a follow-up to what he was just saying. He got me before I was going to say it. I hope you guys, whenever it was, several months ago, when you had people in here looking at your audio equipment here and your mics and all this other decision, I hope you guys didn't purchase any of that, because it's not working. What he just brought up, and I was mentioning it to a couple of people, I am starting to lose my hearing. That's some of it. That's why I moved up to the front. But when you talk really soft, there's absolutely nothing coming through those upper speakers to hear. Nothing. So if you paid anybody for that service, get your money back. Get my money back. Or find out how to use it the right way, because we can't hear. Any side back here can't hear.
Yes, Ms. Weiler.
I am Renee Weiler, and I'm an SEC whistleblower, an IRS whistleblower, and a friend of the DOJ. In fact, there are a lot of DOJ programs for our local law enforcement that come over to me all the time because I'm on a subscription and I would like to give those over to someone from law enforcement, and I will even help to get those grants. There's an amazing amount of grants coming from the DOJ to our counties. Having said that, I'm very concerned about the breach that occurred when I was trying to look through the deed records. I had two different investigations I was doing. One was a trot foreclosure on a deceased man. And I was kicked out of the land records. And so I did make the mistake of putting my name on the invoice when I tried to print it out. So I was tracked, I guess. So I got off of that computer, went on to the other one, and tried to get the additional records I was looking for to prove fraud. And I was kicked out again, and on both times, the gaming program came up, Call of Duty. So what I did is I sent all this information to Deputy Wicton, because he's doing an amazing job of looking at all the deed fraud that came from a subpoena on 3 of my mortgage files, that each one of those properties has been destroyed, title-wise. And so he separated those with the 24 properties that I gave Chairman Wessel. I think it was 24 properties, and I gave them to Marion Kromkowski, that involved a fictitious entity, the Bank of New York Mellon trustee, that Patrick Joseph Soria, a convicted felon, created. They are in our land records, and they are in Fulton County, Georgia. They're in Orange County, California, but in much bigger numbers than we have here. And there is another series of fictitious entities, including Wilmington Trust, it's Wilmington Savings Fund Society Trust, another fictitious company that was created by convicted felon Patrick Joseph Soria. So that is got to be investigated by someone here. Sam does a really good job, Sam Wigton, and then it goes to the prosecutor and nothing happens, and that can't happen anymore. So I did send this to the governor and said, the governor is in charge of the integrity of our land records, and she needs to get on it, because we have Trot and Trot, Linda Orleans, and Randall Miller and Associates that have totally devastated our records throughout Michigan. And we have proof of this. There was a Green Beret in Cedar that was foreclosed upon by David Trott while he was attending a funeral of his mother in Louisiana. I don't know any media here that even reported on that. So what I'm asking is for these commissioners, I've sworn an oath of office. We need you to concentrate on David Trott and his forgeries, Linda Orleans, Orleans and Associates, and Randall Miller. Randall Miller is the brother of the Register of Deeds of Oakland County. They know what's going on. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Yes, Mr. Hunter.
John Hunter, Bingham Township, District 2. Good day, Leelanau County Commissioners. Now, there's 2 facts in that statement. It is day, and you are the elected county commissioners of Leelanau County. It's a crown jewel of the Northern Michigan Tiara. But this is not Antrim County. This is not Oakland County. This is not Maricopa County, California, or Arizona, Colorado, or the state of Georgia. Your duties and objectives are defined as county commissioners by certain statutes within the state of Michigan. You have no authority or governance to change how the voting happens in this state. You cannot change the Dominion voting machines. You cannot roll back the 9-day early voting. You cannot roll back absentee voting. Those are things that happen at the Secretary of State's office or the state legislature. You cannot do anything. But what you can do is in your commissioner comments, start commenting on the fact that you cannot do anything. Because for 2 years now, I've been hearing this kind of stuff behind me, and it only gets worse and worse as it goes on. Now, whether you're an outgoing commissioner or an incoming commissioner or standing for re-election commissioner, none of you or them will have any authority to change how this county runs elections. And perhaps it's better if you explained it gently to some of these election deniers, and maybe they'll go somewhere else where it's more convenient. Maybe they'll go to Lansing, where they maybe get a bigger voice in this matter. Or maybe they'll get a soapbox outside, and maybe they'll stop wasting the county resources, your time, the paid staff, and the public's time, because you're into overtime already today. Now you're on the big day, okay, because of comments like this continually. So my suggestion is, if you can find a gentle, kind, responsible way to explain the fact that your position, and no matter who holds it, cannot change the elections in this state, I think you would be doing the public a good service. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Thank you for coming today. Thank you for those of you that spoke. Any commissioner comment? Commissioner Rourke and then Commissioner Kramer.
Yes, sir. I just want to reinforce that my time away from this board is my time. I don't want any personal attacks from somewheres I have been or meetings that I have been. I fought for this country and spent 4 years in the Marine Corps, okay? 35 years as an officer. If you got a problem with me, come and see it. If I broke the law, you go see the prosecutor. But to come in here and hold a picture of one of our board members is wrong. Thank you.
Thank you.
Add to that, I typically don't want to chime in on national news because I feel like it has no relevancy here within the county government. However, if one of our commissioners would like to go and speak their mind, it is very interesting if we just look at the numbers. Israel, there's 1,139 people who had been killed. Injured, 8,730. If we look at Palestine, the Gaza Strip, plus the occupied West Bank, we have nearly 36,000 people who have been killed. Half of those are children. If we look at the injured, there's over 80,000 people. If someone is upset by the amount of people that are being killed across the pond from us, I think they should be able to demonstrate that and not have someone come from the audience, take a picture of them, and then bring it to us, like as sort of evidence for what? Evidence for empathy? Because that's what I see. That's all.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comments? Commissioner Lautner and then Commissioner Algar.
Well, public comment is what it is. And I'm not going to ask anyone that comes to speak before us to not speak about what they want to come and speak to us about. It is public comment. And the less we censor it, the better. I am very concerned about this, and I was watching as Ms. Weiler was speaking, and I really didn't see a lot of engagement with what she was saying. So what she has handed me, and I want to reinforce, did we all catch what she was saying? If this was a county computer, this county computer in the Register of Deeds office that kicked her off and was bringing up Call of Duty. What's going on? Is IT on this? I guess that Deputy Wigton is looking into that, but what the heck? I think, I just hope we can get on top of that. I think this is not just made up things in people's minds. There's companies that are popping up to protect our titles and our homes and our investment because this stuff is going on. And I understand the registered deeds must legally file what comes in, but we also need to legally take care of our properties and look into these things. That is our duty to do so. But we've got a problem.
Well, I bet we have an administrator to look into that situation with our IT person, right?
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Algar.
I have always been a proponent of the public being able to speak. And yes, we've explained many, many times that we have no control over voting machines, etc. We do have and support a phenomenal.
Pull the mic up. People having trouble hearing that.
We do have and support a phenomenal clerk's office that runs safe, fair elections. Our township clerks and our county clerk and her staff always ensure that we have safe, fair elections here. And for that, I'm grateful.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comments? In regards to the new microphones, we have ordered those, but these are not them. So
Okay, I thought before we've heard some sound come from up above, but there's nothing now. It's all projection from where you're
I
sitting.
think we're working on something.
Well, I'm trying to figure that out.
That was months ago.
Any other commissioner comments? Okay, we now have approval of financials.
I would recommend approval of claims and accounts, $164,804.51.
Support. All those in support of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved 7-0.
I would recommend approval of post audit, $2,163,130.29.
Support.
All those in support of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved 7-0.
And I might add, we are full day anyway, because we have another full session ahead of us.
Yes, we will adjourn this meeting with your approval, and then we will reconvene at 1 o'clock.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I got 6 years. 11 months.
You still got no business.
Should be the adjourner.
Not in this. You can put all day long, for a single, one person, you're wrong.
I want to put it in there. I wish.
Go on. Richard. Good movie. I just walked. Yes, I know. This is my first time. You know what to do. Oh, I will. Damn right you will.
In a public space, I can take a picture anywhere.
Yeah, you got slander.
That's not slander.
It's a good deal.
Never.
I'm not afraid of you.
I'm not afraid of you.
I see.
My memo.